I think it's pretty obvious that Hasan probably shouldn't have been invited as a guest speaker. If he was, there should have been some other points of view there as well.
Why not make that argument with the chapters and convince
I
the
shouldn't
chapters
have
change the board?
It's their chapters. I shouldn't have to tell them how to run their shit. They should
say I shouldn't have to. What does that mean? I don't know. Like,
as in you're telling me how to optimally message inside of the.
Don't you have a political project?
Yes, and I think my political project is better spent with organizations that aren't constantly courting tankies.
Where do you think I'm wrong?
Where do I think you're wrong?
Other than your feelings.
I don't actually think you're wrong. I think that you're
right.
I think you're politically brainwashed. I think you don't believe what you're saying because you wouldn't apply this in any other manner. That's why I'm actually struggling. I can't find a single
Why do you have to say shit like that?
because I can't find an example for you to even engage with because you say that's different. That's not the same. Which shows me that you do understand.
Okay, so I wanted to chat about the college dems stuff. But maybe I want to chat about Mamdani first.
Okay.
Well, I mean, where are you, though? I feel like, obviously, so I don't know if you saw my chat about it, but I think the whole not letting you in thing was completely fucked up.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. I also, I'd say, like, how a lot of my current, like, state of the world has changed since, I don't remember the last time we chatted. But I think I'm more concerned with, like, Hasan broadly speaking, gaining a persuasion ability in the party. And so, like, if I net that out, your initial reaction to all of it made a lot of sense, but I wonder, like, how do you view this as a problem with the people who didn't let you in, the College Democrats of America, and then your larger, like, this is the tankies, this is the left, versus this is just an incident? Like, where are you mapping everything right now?
This is the like, who do I hold responsible for it?
Yeah, and again, like, the first couple days in the parts of the stream that I hopped into, and I didn't catch, like, your full reaction, so I might have caught hot parts, but, like, it felt like you were, you know, like, again, the thing I said to you in chat at some point was about the college dems, and, like, you were painting a very broad brush as to all the people who had to renounce. Silence is also complicity.
Yeah, I mean,
don't know, like, how broad that brush is in reality for you.
Well, I would say the entire organization, I think, to some extent, has to stand behind what's going on. I think that one of the things that sucks is that people don't immediately see when they're being called to act, and people need to be a little bit more aware of that. This is a very meme-y thing, but, like, I used to debate a lot on, like, forums way back in the day, and, you know, oftentimes, because when you're 17, you're retarded, you know, I'll be, like, out of my depth on a topic, but there'll be, like, that one guy on, like, the board who, like, we know that he'll show up for a certain topic, and he'll always beat the other dudes because he knows all of his shit. And I remember at times in the 2016 era looking at certain arguments or whatever online and thinking a few times, it's like, okay, well, I need, like, the guy to come out and figure this shit out or whatever. And then I kind of realized, like, fuck, I think this has to be me now at this point. I think I'm, like, I have to be that guy.
You're the guy.
And I think sometimes people don't realize that there are going to be times in their life where they're called on to be that guy, and it can't just be this perpetually off-putting thing. And so, like,
yes,
you have to stand up and say something. I thought about it for a second, but I didn't trust myself because I wasn't sure if I was being emotional, and just because I do, believe it or not, I still try to be strategic. I got a really long message from is it the KU? Is that Kansas University people? Their wing. And they sent me a really long thing about the message that they put out on Twitter, but that they wanted me, if I could, to, like, unretweet anything related to them because they didn't want to be involved in, like, the fighting or whatever. They just wanted to kind of, like, distance themselves from everything. And I was really tempted to repost their message on Twitter and blow them up and say, like, you have to, at some point, you have to be willing to take a stand on something. It can't be, you're literally a political organization. How can you be afraid of taking a stance? But I opted not to because I figure it's a lot. But that thought of, like...
I get your point, though, right? Like, the point of the organization, if you join something like that, if you create something like that, it is to be alive in moments that matter.
And then it's also, like, we if you're going to romanticize so much about politics, like, we're fighting the fascist admin of Donald Trump and the evil ISIS. It's like, okay, well, like, I really do think sometimes that, like, the whole country needs to get, like, abducted and forced to relive civil rights and understand, like, all the work that went into that. I think we've done a great disservice to understanding everything that went into that. It's a lot of work to get shit like this done. It's a lot of process and procedure work. It's a lot of sacrifice. It's a lot of thanklessness. And you're not sure. I mean, Jim Crow was pervasive across the entire United States of America, and we were a country that did chattel slavery. Like, why the fuck, if you were black, did you really think that you were going to win the civil rights push on something that seems so obvious that not everybody in the country, like women only got the right to vote in like the fucking 20s, right? For suffrage, 1920s, right? For women's suffrage in the U.S.
Well, and we collapse so many of the stories, such as the heroes. Like,
yes,
we hear their stories as if it happened at the moment the change happened.
Like
but
civil
actually it was
rights
like 40
was
years earlier.
MLK, and then Malcolm X had a big debate, and then they did a few marches, and then MLK got killed, and then everybody had civil rights and like a happy ending. Yeah, people don't see all the in-between struggles, and you don't see the failed movements too. So yeah,
that was literally like a generation of a lifetime's worth of work in that in just that moment of civil rights, not just historically. I agree with that. I guess so. That is a great, by the way, call to action in general. I think it's interesting. As I was thinking about what I wanted to chat with you about, it's like, how do we give people a playbook of a kind? Because I think this is one of the things I disagree with the brush you painted that day. Again, I don't know if it's as broad as it was that day because or the couple of days after the thing, but because I wonder if they don't have something to react to, because they're not going to take obviously the event as personally as you, especially depending on their context as to who you are and who Hasan is and who decided on the event, et cetera, et cetera. But to get to one of the things that I was thinking about, it's like, look, I think most college Dems, if you think of them as being like well-meaning people who are on some spectrum of the left, would probably agree that there should be, for national events, some sort of invite right, let's call it, or like some sort of, let's say, non-rescindment that happens around these sorts of events when they're supposed to represent a certain portion of the tent, right? Versus like if they had excluded a Republican or if they excluded a Republican influencer. But they don't have that as like a thing they probably think they can do, which gets to probably the foundation of my reaction to you of like, oh, I don't think they have the agency. Like a lot of the college Dems that we talk about, the organizations, these chapters, are so disconnected from, let's say, not only the national, kind of organization, but the idea that they would even attend. Like it's a very small segment of college Dems that actually attend an event like that. And so their ability, their agency to say, oh, I have a say, is actually quite limited. But maybe let's start there. I mean, like, so right now it sounds like you think there's an obligation not being met. There's more that we can do. We, as a whole, don't, kind of see political activity in the right way, such that it leads to events like this, where an entire population, let's say in this case the college Dems and all of their chapters, are being dragged optically and then somewhat literally in the case of the event itself towards something that they should actually either explicitly say they support, in which case, that'd be one thing, or they should denounce or push back against. Do you still think it's a responsibility of chapters? Like, again, where are you holding the accountability right now? Is it the people who didn't let you in? Who is it to you?
I mean, in my mind, initially, it's going to be with the people on the ground there, because, well, initially it's going to be the organization as a whole, because it is who they are. They're the college Dems. And then more specifically, it'll be the people on the ground that made the call that particular day, because it sounds like this was made at the highest areas of leadership, and it was made pretty spontaneously, so people didn't have time to say anything. But then as time goes on, it's going to be the entire organization. It was the college Dems that did these particular set of actions. So if you're a chapter of or a part of the college Dems, if you haven't made some kind of like public statement about it, then you all kind of have to stand tall on the decisions.
So probably I agree with that on a long enough time horizon, probably, I guess.
That long time horizon in my mind is like a week or two at the most.
Well, it also depends on if you think this is a qualifying event. Let me go to what I mean there specifically, but we can zoom out from it if it feels too specific. If I think about the college Dems in any particular chapter, again, they're going to be there's going to be an executive council or like a board for each chapter's college Dems. It's going to be a president, a secretary, a treasury person, an ops or events person, whatever. Right? There's going to be like between 5 and 8 people that run it, and then depending on the size of the school, obviously, anywhere from dozens to hundreds of members. In hearing you talk about that for the first time, again, my reaction to you was not only, hey, that group, the controlling group of the chapter, only interacts with the national, by the way, mostly through the state org, and barely for logistics. And then all of its members never interact with the national. And so logistically, I don't know that makes, and I'm not saying we don't want it to make sense, right? So there's a portion to this where we might go, hey, like the way college dems work isn't efficient because it doesn't represent like a collective. And we might want it to, but right now it doesn't. Like, what is that person who exists on a campus and might agree with you supposed to do? And by the way, what of the ones who don't know of you that well and can't grok the incident, should they really be considered complicit?
I mean, yeah. If you're really so disconnected from all of it, then just leave. No?
Well, no, because I don't know that this event is as big to them as it is to you. And that doesn't mean it shouldn't be, right? But I don't think, again, most of them don't get to attend that event. Most of them don't get to... And
wasn't
by the way,
this
so like the Jewish
wasn't
caucus,
this a big national event for them?
Yeah, but...
Like, it wasn't just like a
you have to
single
understand-
chapter event. This was like a big event for the organization.
But what percentage of people who sign up for their college dems at a campus do you think wind up at an event like that?
Throughout the
we'd both
year,
be guessing.
my guess is probably less than 10%.
Exactly. And so like I think there's a thing that is representative of not the college dems as a whole, but of kind of the leadership of all of those chapters trying to do something, people who eventually want to actually go into politics from a career perspective, but it doesn't represent the polity. It doesn't represent like the mass that goes.
Let's say
to
that I
events
have
on
like
their
a
local
digital
campus.
ground game event. And let's say that I have it just for like, I do a big event. I invite everybody who wants to come out to DC. We can fly to DC. And there are like my different, we have 2 canvassing houses set up right now. And I'm sure there are like DGG poll like chapters or groups of people across the country. And let's say that I just have like a no blacks rule at this thing. And there aren't very many people that go. Would you judge the people across the country who look at that and they're like, well, I wasn't there. We didn't really go. It wasn't my call to ban black people from this
I
event.
think that's a bigger thing than, I don't think people understand not invite. By the way, so this is where I go like, what's the action item? So I know that like everyone wants us to debate and kill each other, but like I'm not here to like debate. I think the thing was wrong. I agree with you. If I was running the thing, or if I had like an ability to.
Sure. And then
say
to be
that the
clear,
executive
I'm
board
not
should be
saying, I'm not
disbanded.
arguing that it's like that me getting banned from this event was the same as like banning all black people. I'm just saying that I don't know if I agree with your idea of like, well, they're just it's a smaller chapter and they don't go to the events themselves, so maybe they're just not interested in what the decisions or the policies are there.
And I don't. Well, so I'd add to that, and I don't know that all these kids are following you and Hasan enough, and know why that happened, such that they have something to do. By the way, though, and again, this goes to the point of like, I'm not here to just fight or whatever, although we can. But like the thing that I do think is interesting, and you thinking about this out loud for the past couple of days has made me think about, is we don't give right now, and when I say we, I do mean this community in particular, but also like lib-left communities, don't give the good playbook. And so let me give you an example. I don't know that right now there is something someone can read anywhere that gives the not you, and I don't at all, I'm not at all blaming you at all for having an emotional reaction to Hasan about this, but like the content from you in this community is all just like about Hasan and his reaction, whereas could this community produce something, or could somebody produce something, and this is about like the coverage of the event is obviously flawed, that would give the neutral, hey, this is just problematic on its face version of events versus the version that is about your guys' beef. Because the version about your guys' beef is hard for someone at a random chapter to grab onto and do something to, versus someone saying, hey, like a person who's a liberal who's like clearly in our tent, who has a huge audience in our tent.
I agree with you, but whose responsibility is it to communicate that? Let's
That's-
say
well, so
that
that's an
I'm a
interesting
chapter.
question.
Let's say that I'm a member at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. I find out there are these weird streamer guys. One guy got banned from an event, and another dude showed up in a mouse suit. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I feel kind of weird. People are asking me questions about this, so I go to my chapter leadership. Is the onus on them to say, well, go do your own homework, or well, go see the video that Destiny, his community, put out about it? It should be the organization itself took a stand on this issue. So I feel like
But
they
who are
should
they
be
getting
able.
their education from? How are they learning about this?
They should do it themselves.
They should do it themselves.
Like the organization should. The organization had within its possession enough information to feel
Which
comfortable.
organization?
The
are you
college
talking
Dems.
about? Hold on. The college Dems are, so the way that it works, the college Dems are like an executive council. Then there are a bunch of state, it's like a federated sort of organization. Then there are a bunch of state chapters that then charter on-campus things. So when you say the college Dems, like I think the executive board was just like wrong. So that they're the people who are completely in the red, right? Like
Sure.
they are wrong. They're communicating poorly. They're deciding poorly. The rest of the college dems, when we say the college dems, are you talking about a chapter lead who might not have even come to this event, might not have even, seen the email that said, "Hey, come to this event," and
Okay,
decided,
let me.
I can't
so
travel?
here's what I'm not understanding. So here's a question: what is the point of being in the college dems?
On campuses, I think college dems represent, and all the equivalent organizations, hey, I generally ascribe to the political view that, kind of the label college dems, college Republicans, and college libertarians represent. And I want to have conversations that...
Wait, but what does that mean? What does it represent? At some point, I'm asking a question. We can just skip, I guess. At some point, I'm going to ask you, like, what is the point of being in this organization? And it's because ostensibly, the organization represents some shared value. Why do you join any organization? Because there's some shared values. But if it's the case that the executive body of that organization can make decisions, and what I would argue are relatively big decisions, at least for this event, if those don't somehow make their way down to the individual chapters and nobody understands what's going on, then I would be very scared of. I just wouldn't be a part of that organization if I don't know what's going on, or if I'm not supportive of the...
This is the part where I go, like, where are we putting the onus to that and the responsibility there? Because when you say, like, I do think they would have the value of you not being not let into that event if they knew about that event and if they knew about the details. But a local college dem member inside of a chapter on a campus is likely not to have gone to that event, likely not to have thought about it after they decided they're not going if they saw the invite whatsoever.
Sure, but then that's a failure. That's a failure of the organization then.
Right, but that goes to the organization. So I actually agree with you. So with what you just said, which is we still have to actually blame the board, and the action has to be to change the board. Now, again, this is where I go, like, that's why I don't want to paint the brush to the chapters.
Well, but wait. The chapters are the ones that would pressure the board to change. They're the chapters.
Yes, but I don't think they have an action that they can take right now because there is no clear communication about this. Like, if you're one of those people, I don't know that you're thinking about this right now.
Not communicating is an action.
Who?
If there's no communication, then that is the action. The action is the thing hasn't been communicated. So then the chapter has to figure out, well, do we want to be a part?
But how do they know about it right now?
Do they see it on social media or something, I guess?
Yeah,
I mean, if you're asking me, like, if a chapter, like, has never even heard at all about what's going on, should they just randomly quit? Well, I mean, definitionally no, because they haven't even heard about what's going on at all. I mean, I guess in that case,
and I'd say most have probably heard very fuzzily, if at all, about this. And that's why I think, like, again, it is either we and, again, community or whoever cares about all this changing has to give them something to see. Like, hey, here's the read on this that, again, is not about the beef, because about the beef is confusing. So here's the read on this that is about what you have, what you said, right? What are our shared values? One of our shared values is a conversation where liberals should be invited, broadly speaking, to talk, communicate, and collaborate. And if they could see that wasn't happening at the board level, and we've seen this, by the way, in the past. So Missouri, I actually didn't know this until this happened. So I went to school at WashU in St. Louis. Our chapter at some point after my time apparently disbanded from the College Democrats of America because there was some sort of controversy involving the executive board, and Missouri did not agree with how it was being handled, and they disbanded from it, right? So there is this notion of them holding the board accountable. But the question is, how do they get that message? So in the case of that 2020, I think it was 2020-ish that this happened, it was some executive member, student of, I think, the entire CDA, the national version, saying, hey, we're not treating some part of our constituency or demographic correctly. And it was a national conversation, even in the news. Like, it wasn't that guy said, hey, let me go get all the chapters to vote this way. It became a national news topic. This, I don't think, proliferates the same way.
Well, maybe my banning doesn't, but Hasan being there absolutely did, right?
That's fair. And I think that I'm more concerned about than I was maybe 2 months ago. Sure. But I don't know that. Yeah.
But also, I think it's fair. It would be fair for me to just say, oh, like, I'm not doing any events with the college Dems. Like, we're not doing any joint canvassing things or whatever.
Why though?
Because it can't be that I am the only person in every single thing that I involve myself in, that I'm literally the only man on the planet with agency. It can't be that it's my job to figure out.
No, but that's not what I'm asking. Hold on. What is the leap there? So when you say
how this should function is, I would imagine if I was running something, I'm trying to think if we've had things like this. If a big dramatic event happens and it is reaching some level of media, then the chapter presidents put out some kind of statement to explain what's going on to all of the chapters, so everybody knows, and then they explain their decisions, and then they stand by them, and that's it. And they actually, they did do something kind of similar to this in the form of like tweeting out that like, oh, by the way, people that come to these events don't necessarily represent us, LOL, and that was their version of it. But
that was the executive board.
Yeah,
that was not. And that's my point, right? The campus people, these chapter people, are not the same. And they, by the way,
I understand that not the same, but I'm saying it's very easy for the executive board to put out a statement on it, and then the chapter.
The executive board sucks. Hold on, the executive board sucks.
That's your executive board.
Those are the people who suck.
They represent you.
Right, but these chapter presidents only have once a year, I believe, or once every couple of years to be part of the national conversation, which again is very logistics. They don't have a lot of policy conversation. This is a very kind of
then don't do that. That's easy. That's fine.
As an island.
That's fine. I agree. Then don't do national events. Easy. They shouldn't. Then if the executive board can't be trusted to hold a relatively neutral event.
Say a very simple version though of what I'm trying to say, Stephen, is like who knows if you're even going to get invited or put together events where this matters, but like I don't know that it matters that let's pick a campus, let's say some Pennsylvania campus of the College of Dems couldn't figure out how to have so much agency, especially while they're a college kid doing whatever they're doing in college, to figure out that they should put out a statement, which they don't usually do at all, and so they have to like conceive of what that looks like and who do we release the statement to, and do I have the authority as the president of this to do this thing, versus going, okay, this doesn't represent these individual chapters. Maybe it's a good thing to get involved with these chapters such that there's more of just this other perspective that then votes nationally from these chapters, from the bottoms up, having more exposure to this other side of the conversation. Like, again, I don't know that they have done something where we have to like purity politics them.
It's not purity politics, but I mean, like, I could just accept what you're saying to be as true, and that's fine. But like, I'll never work with them, and then maybe nobody else cares.
Who will you never work with?
Nothing with the name College Democrats on it.
But what if
the name? You're never moving me from this point. The name has to mean something. It can't just be that the name is just a placeholder. You joined an organization. When the organization does stuff at the top, it rolls all the way down. And you should expect that. Every other organization on the planet functions like this. And every other person... Do you expect
the College Dems, all these chapters, to always be talking about all of these issues?
All of these... It was their one... How many of these like national level events do they even have? And there was a hugely dramatic thing that happened with the two largest left streamers on the planet.
Don't have to comment on an event. Right?
Yeah, but they made a decision this time that made it so that they did have to comment.
Who made a decision?
The executive board.
Right, and so they should hold the executive board accountable, but they shouldn't necessarily be releasing an individual statement when that's not naturally, like, they're not a moral agent, right? Like, college Dems exist mostly for campus programming. They like get a budget from their school typically. They're going to put on pizza events. They're going to be topical.
You're describing a thing to me that doesn't exist in the real world. Everybody, when you're part of a company, when you're part of an organization, nobody can just say, "Oh, that was just
federated." Than you're talking about.
Nobody sees it that way. What do you mean? Nobody.
When you say nobody sees it that way, anyone who's been part of their college Dems knows what I'm talking about, because it is a disconnected thing from national.
That's on the inside. That might be
very
true.
Local events.
Here's a question: if we were to look up sales from Subway after the Jared Fogle thing, do you think that franchise Subways did significantly better in sales than corporate Subways because the franchisees? Yes. Because nobody's going to view the franchisees as going, well, you're not part of corporate. You're just a franchise thing. So I understand that you're like significantly different than the corporate entity. No, you have the name, so people are going to associate you all together. It's the name. The name is the name. It means something.
Associate you is different than saying, hey, every chapter has like the moral agency to need to comment on controversy that is atypical.
Okay, I mean, that's fine. But if I'm just an atypical controversy, then why would you ever expect me to work with them?
Because I think individual chapters don't represent this like negotiation that you're having with whether or not the CDA board, which, by the way, they don't have that much money or authority. I know they put on this event, but like it's generally like not important to this executive board.
I disagree.
Obviously, it manifests.
It's important to me. I disagree.
Yes, I agree with you. And that's a reason to work with the local chapters who have the bottoms-up ability to change the perspective and how they hold that board accountable.
No, they don't have to change their perspective. I'm totally fine without the whatever college Dems. It doesn't. Hold on. I don't have an onus to change them. At the end of the day, it doesn't affect me.
I know you have an onus, but don't you want to?
No, I want them to. I don't want to do the work for them unless they want to let me come in and take like a controlling lead or something of the college Dems.
We don't assume that they don't have the value. But we don't. I would not assume, and I hope you'd agree that they don't. It's not that they are right now representing the values that we don't have, right? Like
they are. Yes, they are.
No.
The college Dems represent an extremist wing in the party right now
executive
through their
board,
executive board and the statements that they put out.
Board.
Yes.
Right. Hold on. But again, if this is a federated thing where someone's going to college for 4 years of their life, for a segment of life, an era of their life, they become president of a local board where mostly local stuff matters. For example, for me, can I use if you allow me to use the anecdata here? Most of what I was concerned about had to do with the college Republicans. We set up a lot of debates every semester. We had a magazine called the Washington University Political Review that would often, in affiliation with the Political Science Student Association, put on events where we talk about, actually, even back then, Israel-Palestine, or it was, graduated in 2013, so Obama's second election happened at the time. We'd host local events. We'd host pizza parties with the college Republicans and Libertarians. From a national state perspective, right to work and voter ID were actually issues in Missouri at the time, so we hosted events about that. That person, and that's me in this case, was not hyper concerned about what the college Democrats were doing, and so I wouldn't. Again, would I have commented on this? Probably, because I was, kind of a very nationally obsessed nerd politically. But like most of my team wasn't, right? Like the executives, we were not concerned about what's happening nationally. Our values wouldn't be represented in this moment.
Your team of people who were niche enough to join an on-campus political organization weren't looking at national politics involving the political organization?
No.
I find that very hard to
believe. But the national politics, when you say national politics versus an event, a national event that they wouldn't have even had the opportunity necessarily to attend.
It doesn't matter. They live stream the things for who? I mean, people can see it. It's if none of this mattered,
I hear you, but
if none of this mattered, then why be a part of the org? Just do your own thing. Make your own little campus frat
because I think that
thing or whatever.
Disconnect, right? Because I don't think they think, and I think this is reasonable, and this is where I think our disconnect is right now, that it's not related. And I hear you on the optics. So I 100% agree with you on the optics, and I do think the optics get mushed, and that's a good conversation. But I don't think that an individual or a group of individuals in these campuses currently believe that their values are being perfectly represented and necessarily that it actually is their values. So I think they would be surprised by our conversation. And therefore, I think like they deserve a little bit more leeway from you. And again,
no,
who cares at the end of the day? But like,
I don't think so.
Why?
Because this should be a pretty easy thing to have a position on, and if you can't even take a position on this here, how are you going to lead?
Who's asking them to have a position? Who's asking them to have a position?
Well, I would be, I guess, if anybody asked to work with me.
But you're not.
I would say,
you're not, right? You're doing a purity politics thing. You're saying if they don't come out and say,
contingent. First of all, okay, you can't just use the disparaging term purity politics. If somebody came out with a pro-rape movement, I wouldn't want them to be part of my. You are saying no. Hold on. You understand that to some extent, like. Not all discrimination is bad, right? I wouldn't want to be part of, like, the rape Dems, right? I'm not purity testing in a derogatory way by not being part of the rape Dems, correct?
Huh?
Okay. So me not wanting to work with the college Dems when the college Dems excluded me proactively from an event. That's not, like...
Okay, but
that's not being unreasonable.
If a chapter says, I want to do something with you, and you are saying you did not proactively speak out and your silence is complicity, that is a version of purity politics.
If purity politics is just asking people to have a stance on something, I guess.
I'm not trying to like interrogate whatever you want to label it. I don't like whatever it is. We don't need to like. If you don't like the association with purity politics, that's fine.
Okay, so if they had made the decision for no
holding them accountable for silence is complicity.
Sure. If the executive board of this event had made a decision of no blacks or no Jews allowed at the event or whatever, would you have expected?
That's completely different.
Sure, but let's just follow it out. If they had made a decision like that,
yeah.
Which arguments no longer apply to what you're saying? Because why couldn't a college chapter just say, well, that was the executive board, we don't stand by that, or like, this isn't our event?
That is a very legible, very, very clear, and very extreme antithesis
What if
to
it
all their
doesn't
values.
get like? What if it doesn't get like a lot of coverage or something? Or I mean, like, do you expect
still very much like an extreme deviation from the values that are generally represented by the organization?
Okay. Well, in that case, what you're telling me is that banning me from an event must not be that extreme of a deviation in values from an event, in which case, why would I ever want to work with them?
I don't believe that they have it as a legible event. And again, this is why I go to right now, the way a lot of this is represented, and I'm again, I know you hate when I caveat, but I want to caveat anyway. I'm not blaming you for it, but like, let's take the 2 days after the stream, at least the parts that I caught, were you being hot, and I think it's completely reasonable, about Hasan. Mm-hmm. There's no legibility in what you were saying. It was. It's
not my job to have the legibility. I can be
visceral. I agree with you. I'm just telling you what they have. I'm just telling.
Okay, and that's fine. I agree. No, you're describing for them, and you're prescribing for me. That's my problem. I know.
No, I'm not.
You
I'm
are.
not.
You're
I'm
telling me that I
describing
ought
for
to,
you.
No,
Hold on.
I don't.
Hold on. I'm telling you that they don't have a thing to latch onto. Where are they getting?
Have you ever
the
debated
legible
Radiant
version?
before? You guys would be the best debate partners. Whew.
I do have a question, and it's a serious one. So if, like, let's say Kansas University wanted you, College Democrats of Kansas University wanted to work with you, Stephen, because they released a statement. Let's say they didn't send you that email, right? Would you still work with them, or is all of College Democrats done now?
I think if you had explicitly and specifically issued a statement, I would consider it. But I would still have to be careful, because why would I lend my reputation and lend my business and lend my time towards a group of people that are part of a body that explicitly disavowed me?
Because you have a political project, and those people are not perfectly represented by the CDA's executive board.
Would you join the rape Dems?
Well, if they don't say anything, then they
The rape Dems are part of a political project to elect Democrats.
Why do you say that? Why are you saying that?
Because you're saying pointless statements. It's a political project. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't let you slide by on everything.
You're not part of the rape Dems.
No, but they're part of the college Dems that explicitly and proactively excluded me from an event.
Do you not agree that there are times where we don't want to ascribe loose affiliation to just paint broad brushes on everyone who has, let's say, voted for a candidate for office?
There might be, but joining a political organization that is expressly political is probably not
a political organization.
one of those
when you
times.
Go to campus, you have option of like 3 things if you're politically activated.
Really?
And one of them represents what you know nationally.
There's not like 100 different fucking politics things that you could join on campus.
It's Dems, liberals, and Dems, Republicans, and usually libertarians.
Hold on, those might be the 3.
There's a Green Party.
Those might be the 3 parties, but I bet there's like 100 different fucking political orgs that you can join.
That are topical and issue-based, but not that represent national politics, no.
Okay, well, if your national politics is represented by an executive board that's that extreme.
Do you think an 18-year-old who goes to a campus and joins the College Democrats thinks that they're ascribing to 5 members of the executive board, or to like the idea of the Democratic Party that they, their parents vote for?
Sure, but if they don't...
well, then they'll learn. They'll learn. This is how the world works.
They'll learn by you not affiliating with them.
They'll learn that when you're part of an organization, and that organization does things from the top down,
you're not even making it legible. You're just saying, I'm not going to work with you. And it's like, it's not even a legible protest on your side. Like, it's not legible. Like, it doesn't give anyone anything to do.
You're prescribing again. I know you're pretending you're not.
What does that mean?
You're telling me that the onus is on me to make my issue more
onus. I believe you have a political project. I'm not putting a debt on you. I understand your goals.
You're saying that the onus is on me to express some idea to make my thing more lucid to them or more understandable to them. What I'm saying is the onus is on them to work with me. Otherwise, I just won't. Why would I? Then what would the expectation be there?
You're saying you're going to say no to them because of silence is complicity.
No, I'm going to say no to them because the organization was involved in proactively forbidding me from an event.
The thing that federates nationally, that happens to federate nationally, does not represent the truest values of the... But you don't disagree for good reason.
Well, I don't. It's an organization. You're saying the name is meaningless. I disagree with that.
The name is meaningless. I'm saying that the way that these campus orgs are is highly disconnected from...
Then why are they connected at all? Then why not just start your own org? If it doesn't do anything, if it's not connected, then what's the point?
Because there's some national and state programming. So, for example, when I was president of College Dems, there were like 2 or 3 events that we did at the state level.
Oh, wait, what was the national program that they did here? It was the event in D.C. that I got kicked out of.
Yeah, I'm telling you why they're affiliated at all. Right? You asked that question. That's what I'm telling you.
Okay.
Right, and so like because there's an opportunity for some programming, and I believe we even got some cash for events from the state level. That is an exciting thing to be affiliated with, and it's by default at most campuses. And so they don't have the need to protest against that, first of all, before this event. And again, I think it's not legible for them to immediately go right now, oh, this thing seems problematic based on what I hear, because again, what they hear is about a personal beef. And so insofar as we understand why these 18 to 22-year-olds are joining this College Dems, and we have kind of the ability to understand their point of view of going to campus and wanting to be around people who are like-minded, and we understand that there are some logistical benefits, and again, we understand it's a default, and we understand that the feedback loop is to this executive board, which, by the way, the Jewish Caucus tweet that you brought up pointed to the board as well. It did not point to the chapters, right? It said, hey, like, we need to change this board.
Why would it point to the chapters? No one is pointing to the chapters. I'm not
You're pointing to the chapters. You're saying, I'm going to hold the chapters responsible if they're not explicitly coming out and saying something.
Well, yeah, but it's not like the chapters aren't the ones that did the wrong thing. Just like I'm pretty sure the Jewish caucus and the whatever would look.
Wait, why did you disagree with me?
Because you're making an argument that I'm not even making. You're talking about something different. I don't hold the
chapters. You just said you don't hold the chapters.
You're saying I don't hold the chapters responsible for banning me. I hold them responsible for not disavowing or bringing about some accountability in the organization related to banning me from the event, and then inviting Hasan. You can look at those as the same thing or two separate things.
Right, but because I've presented to you why these students would generally join this organization and not necessarily know right now that they should disband or like do all this crazy stuff, that is an ineffective relationship to hold with these chapters.
Why is it ineffective?
Because I don't know that you're representing legible values change.
That's
I don't
fine.
know that you're...
I think it's legible. I think it's pretty obvious that Hasan probably shouldn't have been invited as a guest speaker. If he was, there should have been some other points of view there as well.
Why not make that argument with the chapters and convince
I
the
shouldn't
chapters
have
change the
to.
board?
It's their chapters. I shouldn't have to tell them how to run their shit. They
When
should
you say I shouldn't have to, what does that mean? I don't know. Like,
as in, you're telling me how to optimally message inside of the.
Don't you have a political project?
Yes, and I think my political project is better spent with organizations that aren't constantly courting tankies. That's super simple. I'm not going to waste my time.
The chapters are not necessarily doing that. In fact,
they're
you can
part
find
of an
a lot of these
organization
chapters
that
very
is. I don't
conservative.
want to make them any better. I don't want to do anything strong. I don't want to do collaborative events.
Their
I don't want to
affiliation with
increase
the affiliation with the national organization is loose. That's the point I'm making to you.
Well, I don't care. I'll find unaffiliated things that are or just won't. I'll just do my own events. I'm never going to work with a thing when the name is the organization that is.
It's just the name. It's just the name. That's what it is at this point.
A name means something. It's an organization.
A name sometimes means something in this case because again,
if it doesn't mean anything, then it shouldn't matter that I don't work with them.
I didn't say that. Did I? Did I say that?
What?
I didn't say that it doesn't mean anything or never means anything. It sometimes doesn't mean as much as you're implying. And again, this is a good example because people do not join this organization thinking that there's going to be a bunch of events.
They're going to learn. They'll learn. That's part of life.
How will they learn?
You learn that when you're part of an organization, when your name is on it, you'll learn that, the things that my organization does matters to me. And the things that happen at the very top.
How are we? So because I don't want this to make a you onus. I'm asking, generally speaking, as the general liberal left. How do we make that legible?
Listen, there might be an argument, and I would still take the other side of this. There might be an argument if this was like a football club or something, and the head football guy had said Argentina should win because we like Nazis or some bullshit crazy thing like that. It's like, well, should an individual member, blah, blah, blah. But we're literally talking about a political club. This is a politics club. If you're telling me that the students joining the politics club, which should be the most highly activated, politically interested people in the country, need their handheld, I don't give a fuck. I'll just rather work with other things.
I don't think that they generally think about this event at all.
That's fine. That's
you're
fine.
Not hearing me on.
That's okay. But then I don't have a desire to work with them. I think it's fair for me.
If they aren't typically moral agents on this sort of issue that happen at the national events,
then they shouldn't be involved in politics at all. They shouldn't be.
Why can't they come? Again, I described to you some of the events that I did at my local campus. Why would those events suddenly not be worthy? The local events are the point. The point is to gather with people on campus, and again, on the other side as well, is typically, in most cases, college Dems collaborate a tremendous amount with college Republicans and have local conversations. They're not moral agents typically on national issues at all.
Then don't join the national thing. Just have your own club.
They're affiliated with the national thing because that's just how the money is federated and the logistics are federated.
Well, if there's money flowing, then I think it's fair for me to have
almost
a position.
No money. It's almost no money.
If it's almost no money, then just make your own thing and sell Girl Scout cookies.
Right, but why they don't have they aren't typically moral agents to decide on that.
I don't understand.
Right?
Okay, hold on. Elaborate. Expand on this. They aren't moral agents. What does that mean? It's politics. It's a politics club, and they have no agency morally.
The politics club does not speak on national issues. For example, you can have
the politics club doesn't speak on national issues.
These
are national political parties.
Stephen, not as a unified front. They put on events. That is their mandate. Their mandate universally is not to have stances. These college Dems.
Definitionally, it is. It is a political party with stances. I guarantee
you aren't understanding what these chapters do. I'm trying to describe it to you. They put on events locally that the events do not end with, should we all release a statement on this issue that's happening? The events are meant to allow students to come together and converse with each other locally.
Every single Democratic chapter thing released a fucking statement to help people find boxes of Kleenex over the Rittenhouse verdict. Because every fucking college did. And I bet every chapter released statements on BLM stuff. And I bet every chapter released. I'm sure these chapters release these types of fucking statements all the fucking time.
Actually, I don't think that's true at all.
Okay.
And I'm happy to prove it wrong. Let's think about how to look this up. Is Rittenhouse a good example, or do you want to use a different example?
I don't even know how we would find this.
Okay, hey, I come back later. Bye-bye.
Be careful. Bye.
Yeah, I just don't wanna. Yeah, it's just the people. Why don't we have standards? Just one question. Why can people in the West be treated like adults?
Well, so again, what I'm saying to you, and you can respond to this. I'm not saying we shouldn't have standards. I'm saying let's make them legible. I think the issue is if I think about, and again, I was the president of College Dems. There were many hundreds of members that I had for 4 years at WashU in St. Louis. A really good representation, by the way. Of it was a very big tent because some of the people came from the Midwest, some came from the coast, and those events, right? They were mostly local. And so if I'm thinking about the members who are here and the executive team who are here, they're putting on local events for students around them who are their peers. And so if we do want for them to hold to some standard, we have to make that standard legible for them. For example, we probably want them to vote differently at their next opportunity for a different executive board. And at this executive board vote meeting that happens, again, I think every couple of years or maybe it's every year, this Hasan Destiny thing should be a point of the conversation, and actually that will allow their opinion to be legible too. But my point right now is to say, until then, their silence is not complicity with this, and it's just an issue that isn't that legible to them.
Why isn't? Why can't they learn about what happened and make?
When you say why isn't, when you say why isn't, I'm not trying to. I really mean this question. Are you asking me how they should find out the information, or are you asking me what they should do once they find out?
Well,
because this isn't a legible issue. Because this isn't a legible issue. So again, this is why I keep focusing on what happens on these campuses. Usually, they're hosting events for each other on their campus that are locally focused.
Just
most of these members never hear.
You guys are going to loop on this, but the way this conversation is going on is he's just describing a thing that's happening. And that's it.
That's what I'm trying to say. They need to do things.
No. I understand they can never need to do anything. He's just describing what happens. That's it. There is no need to do, or they can't. He's treating them like they can't do anything.
Well,
no, I'm saying that this is not legible to them. At least
when you say it's not legible, it can be legible. Yeah. You open a fucking web page, open Twitter, open YouTube. There's 50 million things that you can do to fight anything.
But right now, if they do that, right, it's just you and him yelling about your personal beef with each other. That's my point. Right now, there's nothing legible that doesn't seem that it's about you two as actors, right? And that's unfortunate, but it's the truth. They're going to see
then that
the
communicates
content
to me,
as being about the beef.
That's fine. Then to this organization, it's not a very important thing. It's not a thing that they care very much about. But that's fine.
Yes,
but then why would I want to work with them?
Why? They might care about it if it was legible, and I think they actually would. I think they would find, from a values perspective, it problematic for certain liberals and certain people who are.
Then the organization is fundamentally broken and flawed. If the top executive board can act in a way
that the organization works might need to change for modern times because it's super disconnected right now.
Yeah, that's fine, and I don't want to work with it while it's like that. If they can't make these issues legible to their party members, if they can't produce a statement talking about what happened, they can't do any of this stuff, then I don't care. Then why would I want to associate? Why would I want to spend any political capital or any part of my life?
Because there's a lot of young people that you can influence who probably have a lot of overlapping and shared values.
And what am I doing by influencing them? I'm telling them, hey, like you guys can be part of a totally disconnected machine that can do whatever the fuck they want. It's just almost like this is like the chief criticism of the entire Democratic Party is that it can be a bunch of disconnected, federated things that have no coherent vision or view on anything, and they could also act as separate entities.
You could also change that fact. That could be part of your influence.
I'm not here to evolve or change the entire College Dems. Why is it on me to change everything? I have to change every single person.
Hold on.
Never mind.
If you participate with them, right? If let's say that KU or whoever invites you to an event and you say no, you're not going to have any influence on, or barely any. Only the no will be legible to the people you said no to. Versus if you said yes, and as part of your conversation, whatever the conversation was about, you also said at the end, hey, I also want to talk about how I think you guys should get involved nationally and change the national organization. Also, maybe you should have something very legible about how you think that the disconnected nature of the College Dems doesn't work in today's politics, because this should be a representation that also rejects some people from the party in addition to including some people from the party. That would be part of the message with whatever else you're doing with them. And again, it's not your responsibility, but it to me would be ineffective to cross out where most young liberals go as being complicit in something where they didn't really express moral agency. They're just kind of defaulting. And yes, I wish they were more active. I wish everyone was more active, right? That's something that you just talked about with JVL. We want society to be more active, but it's not. So it's useful to us, even if we don't want it to be an onus or an obligation, it's still useful to us to decide, hey, as part of our political project, it's not necessarily healthy to cross out all of these young people for something that's quite illegible. it's not useful to say, hey, your silence is a complicity with something they didn't really have a lot of involvement in, and it probably they do not understand that they probably can even influence this national event, because most of them, especially the members, not just the chapter teams, probably didn't even hear about this event.
Hey, Steven, you know what? You were right when you said that people are treated like retarded children.
Yeah, that's kind of how it goes.
You were right, yeah. The only thing I will say, because I just wanted to speak about this, and it's just a little off topic, but not really. Dylan Burns, my friend, is now very excited, yet again, about how active civil society is in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And people started criticizing basically him because he said that this is a democracy in action. And people like, what democracy, you know? Zelensky canceled elections.
Mm-hmm.
And Dylan wrote an amazing tweet. It's on topic a little bit here. Westerners thinking democracy is something you do every 2-4 years is a big reason why liberal democracy has lost so much ground.
True.
So,
do you think I disagree with that?
No, I don't think you disagree with that in words, but in practice you do.
Hold on. Why do you think I disagree with that in practice?
Because
you're saying that a political
people
organization that exists, that is called the College Democrats of America chapters, are somehow incapable of figuring out what's going on at the national level. College Democrats events that are being streamed to everybody, that Fox News is now running on repeat to make fun of Hasan Piker for.
Wait,
you're saying
hold on. Is Dylan Burns' comment correct? Like, do we think that this is a
to be
reasonable
told
criticism?
for some reason in the West? They need to be organized by someone.
So if that's true, and I'm saying that as well, why do I don't disagree with that, and I'm pointing out that because that's the state of the world, and we operate in this world, but we have a political project, one of the things we should do is deal with the state of the world. And the state of the world as is yes, people are dumb. Yes, people don't pay attention. Yes, people are apathetic.
I agree with you, but my way of dealing with it is to not associate with the people that aren't participating in the way that I agree. But I think that was
But they might if they thought that this...
They won't. This is the biggest mistake that I made in the early part of my career, was constantly participating with people without asking for anything in return.
They were oppositional to you. That's the difference with like the Ben Shapiro types and the Candace Owens types. They were oppositional to you.
I'm saying with Democrats and everything else. I've never asked for anything.
Give me the example. Give me the example
of the largest canvassing operation in the state.
Here.
Every single time we went to Georgia, and we didn't ask for anything.
What does that do with what we just talked about?
What is that oppositional analogy? When Hasan Piker goes anywhere, one of his chief qualifications is no destiny allowed. And that works. It works for him. It's worked for them to be hyper-exclusionary.
What does that have to do, though, with the concept that these individuals don't have something legible in this instance to grab onto? You're not teaching them something.
Legibility, I can't deal with retards. I don't care to deal with retards. I don't know. If you're saying that they can't look up on Twitter, they can't read, I'm not a special education teacher, so I don't know what I would need to...
motivated to do so.
Then don't. Then why don't be motivated to do anything? I don't know. They shouldn't be. Then don't. But why would I be motivated to work with you? If you can't be motivated to know what's going on at your national level shit, why the fuck would I be motivated to go to your school and do something?
If you give them something to copy-paste.
No, it's not on me to give them. Why reach out to me and then expect me to give things to you for you to understand me? That's retarded.
Because they're trying to figure out their way in the world.
Then figure it out without me holding your hand for it. I got other things. I got better things to do with my time than try to beg and plead with you, the college dems of whatever campus, to please God take a stance on what should be a fucking no-brainer.
Yep. Well, anyway, I'm gonna go, but I just wanted to be a little bit hyped about the fact that we got Sirski out. Yeah. We actually did it.
Good job.
Yeah, and the way we did do it is nobody organized anything. People just pay attention. They saw this happened, and they went the very next day in the morning. Entire country is out on the streets protesting.
That's not the same thing. I hate to break it to you, as what's going on with Steven and Hasan. Jesus Christ.
I'm not comparing.
Yes, you are. That's where. I mean, I appreciate kind of the point that you're trying to make, but it's so disconnected. It's unbelievable.
Dude, it's not disconnected.
Of course it is. Hasan and Steven are not at all related in any way in terms of the activation of the catalyst energy required here. These are completely different and disanalogous.
Hey, let's not do further. We have a small law that was passed that people didn't like. A small law about one small
And you're comparing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm comparing that. People weren't organized by other people. They made their position known. These people should make their position known as well. If they're fine with people like Hasan being there in the mouse suit.
They don't think about it in the same way. And to think that they do is absurd.
Well, then they could.
Okay,
then they don't. Then they could just not think about it that way. That's fine.
Yeah, they don't.
Like what Hungary did or whatever. When you get,
and that's reasonable. In this
you
case,
can call
in the
it
case
reasonable. That's fine. But if we take Ukraine for example, in 2014, I guess unless you believe the CIA did it, right? Yanukovych didn't run because people were making the issue legible. It was because Ukrainians were plugged into what was going on, and they felt a really strong way about it, and they fucking mass protested everything else. If you look at the current war effort, everything that's happened between Ukraine and Russia, it's not like you had to have people like podcasters telling these people like, you should care about your country and not being invaded by Russia, and here's these laws and here's these things, and here's like the people are more invested. It's like I guess the Dylan tweet says, it's not like every 2 or 4 years you show up to vote, and that's your exercise in democracy. Yeah. Or for Christians, Catholics, there was a nickname for this. I never remember. It's like twice a year or whatever. They go to mass on Christmas and Easter, and that's Easter, it. Yep. Yeah, these are like you always make fun of these people, but yeah, I don't know.
That's how your people do it with like the religious guys. So you do it like by going one time in the church once a year and declare yourself religious. Same here. You declare yourself a liberal, a Democrat, whatever the fuck, but you go to the church once a year. So yeah, it's just, I don't know, dude.
You want to know who else agrees? You know who else agrees with my perspective? Hasan Piker. Where do you think the concept of America deserved 9/11 comes from?
Are you trying to copy paste Hasan Piker?
No, I'm just saying that everybody intuitively knows that what I'm saying is true. That's why anytime I test this with any other issue, you go, well, that's not the same, that's not the same, that's not the same.
The half of the thing that you're saying is true, and the other half is also true, and you're refusing to reckon with it, which is the people we want, in this case, young liberals, in this case, are not unreasonable to be operating life in a way where they don't have this as something that they're thinking about. It's not unreasonable to be someone at a random campus right now, being part of your college dems, and have zero clue, maybe other than a tweet you saw, or maybe some TikTok, that's probably, by the way, Hasan, or you, yelling about the other person, and not have a sense that this is about a values disconnect they have with the National Party. And that's the part that you're trying to connect to this idea of Western democracy on a point that I agree with, that generally people, yes, are too apathetic, but that doesn't mean that we give up and say, okay, because people are too apathetic, we disaffiliate from any organization that is at all apathetic. No, the apathy here, or the way in which these people might care to some extreme right now or completely not be aware of this issue is reasonable.
Why would they care when they get nothing from there's no penalty for not caring? If nothing comes of it, if people reach out to us like, oh yeah, I'll work with you guys or whatever anyway.
I know you hate this word, but this is why making it legible would be valuable.
The easiest way to make it legible is to not work with them, because now it's very clear and very obvious.
I don't think that's true, and I mean this genuinely. I don't think that's true. When you don't participate with all the chapters of the college dems, I don't think that it usefully gives them that signal.
So what do you think? So the UCF Florida reaches out to me to go and do a college dems event. What do I say in response in Sherveen's perfect world?
I think you should say absolutely yes. You should go do the event, and then at the end, depending on the topic, if it's not about this sort of issue, it might be about this sort of issue, but it's probably not going to be specifically about this issue. You also mention, hey, by the way, this is another thing that I want to say to college dems. Like, I think all of you should be more connected to your national organization, because it'd be useful for that to actually represent parts of your party that aren't being represented. And one of the things that, for example, happened, then be out. And so one of the things that happened recently at the national event is I wasn't allowed in, even though Hasan was. He does not represent a lot of people in this room, probably, but but I do represent, kind of the lib-left version of things, and I shouldn't have been disconnected. Food for thought for all of you.
Like, do you know what sounds? Do you know what
happened in an ideal world?
Okay, I agree with you 100%. I think that all of that messaging is great. It should come from somebody who's in the college dems. That's not my job. Everything you just said is a fine statement. That should be somebody in the college dems to make it. It's not on me to go to that organization and tell them what their beliefs are and tell them how they should respond to national level things. It's on them to do that.
But the problem is, I'm telling you, even the executive groups here are not concerned in the same way as the org groups.
Then don't be concerned. But then that should be a part of what you consider. Hold on. No. What you're saying is so ridiculous on a business level. I just can't believe, like, well, they're just not concerned what happens at the national level. Then why would you invite national level people to speak? That shouldn't be a part of your concern then. Don't reach out to me or anybody else.
Hold on. The executive board is different than the chapter folks.
It's the same organization.
Can you play out for me where you would see my view a little bit more clearly? Like, why do you think we're disconnected on this same organization thing? Because I'm trying to represent to you that reasonably it's not. Like, the analogy doesn't work. Where do you think I'm wrong?
What do I think you're?
Other than your feelings,
I don't actually think you're wrong. I think that you're. Right. I think you're politically brainwashed. I think you don't believe what you're saying because you wouldn't apply this in any other manner. That's why I'm actually struggling. I can't find a single.
Why do you have to say shit like that?
Because I can't find an example for you to even engage with. Because you say that's different. That's not the same. Which shows me that you do understand. I asked you a very specific
question, and you're completely pivoting. Let me ask it again. I keep telling you that this college dems national organization is very disconnected.
Yes, and I'm telling you that's not true, and you don't even believe that. You don't believe that.
No, but tell me why. Tell me why you believe it's not true.
Let's say that at the DC event, they banned black people from going to the event. Do you think that would reflect
you're
at all?
Just give me. Oh, I asked you to tell me why. I didn't ask you to change the analogy. Tell me why you believe it's not true.
Because why I believe you're not being truthful.
That
you're
the
not
chapters are more connected. I'm not trying to make this about me. Why are the chapters not, or why are the chapters more connected than I believe they are?
Well, I'm telling you.
Are you saying that they are, or that they should be?
They from the person making the evaluation right now, definitionally, is me, because it would be me deciding whether or not I want to work with them or not, and I'm technically allowed to decide however I want that association to look. So if it has the same fucking name, and even if it's a federated thing, it's part of the same org, and in my mind, well, it's pretty much the same shit. I think I'm fairly within my rights to say that. You can try to argue over federated nonsense or whatever the fuck, but that's not how anybody else in the political space operates. Look at the track APAC shit. If your fucking dad's friend's dog's person was owned by some other fucking thing and you had money from APAC, that's enough. So
you want to do the same stuff. You want to do the same stuff as the track APAC stuff.
You want to
apply the same purity politics.
Purity
loose
politics.
Affiliation.
Oh shit. Well, now I think you're right. I changed my whole perspective.
I genuinely didn't mean to trigger you.
No, I'm not triggered. You're right. I didn't realize it's purity politics. I agree.
Okay. You are holding them to a standard of silence is complicity.
Well, I don't like holding people to standards feels like purity politics. So I don't know if I like that. Can we phrase it a little differently? I don't want to purity test anybody on anything. 2028 rape dems, by the way.
I think that just doing it based off the name isn't something that you generally believe. I don't think you believe that.
Give me one example. Test this for one example. Because I've already given you like 3, but you wouldn't even engage with them because you know I'm right. So give me one example you think I wouldn't apply the standard.
Chill, you didn't ask me this. I didn't avoid this.
I did ask. I asked several times. What if they ban Jews from the event? What if they ban black people from the
event?
event?
No, that I agree with you on. That's an extreme deviation from values. I already answered that.
Oh, so then the national thing does represent the lower thing. You just think this issue doesn't matter.
When there's an extreme deviation from values.
So if inviting a Maoist and banning a liberal is not an extreme deviation of values.
That's not legible to these individuals. That's what I'm trying to express.
If they can't see the guy in the Mao suit is not legible to the guys in the college dems.
I know you didn't open them, but I've sent you links already that show you that people who call themselves, for example, democratic socialists or socialists, actually hold far more.
We're not talking about a label. We're talking about a coherent organization.
You just called it. You just said it's because of the name.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You just said that.
Hold on. Take a deep breath and take a step back. Okay.
You too.
When I said no, because you just said something very retarded. When I said it's because of the name, I'm saying the full sentence is. I don't know if I actually need to speak this way. When I say it's in the name, what I'm saying is that it is in the name of the organization, and all of the other chapters share that same name of an organization because they all belong to the same organization. Not literally that the name is the same. Like John Smith should know everything that I told John Phillips because they both have the same name.
Sure. I hear you.
Okay.
But then we go to, if the deviation is as extreme as some of the examples you gave, that's different than a deviation that isn't so extreme from the values. And so when they invite hold on,
I'm trying to figure out, is it about legibility or is it about deviation from values? Because you're giving me a different test now.
Well, no, because obviously the deviation from values makes it legible, no? Wouldn't you agree?
Potentially? But I feel like the inviting Hasan is a huge deviation of...
And I know this is the big point where like you're gonna get emotionally activated me saying this, but I don't think that's true for them, right? And I think that's fair. I put myself in a young person's shoes.
That's fine then, and I maybe that might even be true. I actually don't agree with you, but even if that was the case, that's fine. I don't want to work with that. I don't want to work with a Maoist, Stalinist.
These are young liberals.
I don't care.
Liberals.
They don't vote that much.
All Maoist, Stalinists.
I would rather.
A bunch of them are going to be. Hold on.
I would rather. I don't have infinite time. Why would I do events with them when I could do it with any other person or event or thing that would want to do it? I'd rather do another Pangburn event. I'd rather set up my own event.
This is a large group of liberals. So, for example, on when I was president of College Dems, there's many hundreds of members. Some of whom were very liberal and again came from the coast. Some of whom were from the Midwest. Some of them even from Missouri, who were like local campus kids. Some of we even internally had, by the way, funnily enough, an Israel-Palestine debate where it was all college Dems. Like these people, this is not, again, when people sign up for the college Dems, there's not a lot of policy decisions. There's not like an ascription that these organizations are making. And maybe, again, by the way, this is why I think like the naming of this and even the way we talk about these groups is somewhat problematic. These are programming organizations. These are the local event organizations. The people.
How many people as part of these organizations are allowed to openly and avowedly support Israel? And then when somebody challenges them that, do they say, "Oh, we're just programming"? We have a lot of pro-Zionist members.
But that's actually my point to you. It doesn't represent that way. The events that are put on are local events, as in.
So you think that these college Dem chapters are accepting openly, avowedly Zionist members?
What does that mean to you?
As in,
like anyone can sign up for these. Everywhere that one of these exists, anyone can sign up for them.
Really? You have to accept every single person into your college club?
Yes. If you didn't, you would be immediately dechartered. That's part of this.
Can you ever be kicked out of the club?
Wait, so you're telling me that
sure.
that 100,000 that 1,000 Republicans can sign up for the Dem chapter and they're not allowed to exercise control over anybody?
Yes. If you're part of the student body, 1,000%. And again, this is my point, and I'm making.
Do you think that if a Zionist made a speech then at one of these events, do you think that the chapter would make a public statement?
So can we disconnect from like the current moment as like what I think would happen? I don't know emotionally what would happen to everyone in that room.
Sure.
I'm giving you
this is like an exercise conversation now. I'm 100% correct in all of this because every time I try to test
hold on.
anything with a
Steven, I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to answer your question
immediately retreat
with
from
a
the
literal.
hypothetical because you know that it's impossible. Your position is untenable.
Can I offer you the anecdote and you tell me if it addresses the hypothetical?
Sure.
In the anecdote, the Israel-Palestine debate that we had as the college Dems, we're all members of the college Dems. No one was disaffiliated. No one was kicked out. Of that, and we had many debates like this, internal, sometimes with the college Republicans, sometimes we called it pizza and something, and it was just us, and no one was excluded because the representation of your values wasn't part of the test. If you remember the student body, you could sign up for this organization. So I think like right now, your implication, maybe right now because of how hot that topic is, something would happen in that room, depending on how someone expressed their Zionist and who else was in the room. But from an organization perspective, if the president and the executive group of that chapter kicked that person out, I bet you that there would be, if someone was told, and the someone could even be probably the school's student body administrator, all the way to the state that charters all of these Dem groups, that would be problematic. So I look to that example to tell you, like, the expression of your values is not part of why you're in that group, right? So when we held that event, nothing happened to anybody. Everyone had different opinions in that room. That's how those events are held. They are not held as tests of your values.
Just to be clear, everything you're saying is not true. Some of these events absolutely are tests for your values. There are certain people that will get protested more. I know this because there were some events that I needed to have more security for. I had to have discussions with Yale.
Wait, which person is holding the test for the values? So when I answered your question, I answered from
I'm just saying that some of these orgs do have like political opinions and they do influence ultimately at the end of the day. Maybe because of title
people inside of them do, but they're not supposed to, right?
That's why I answered your question honestly. As opposed to a piece of paper having an opinion? What do you mean?
Okay, I read your question as are these organizations supposed to hold tests for values? And my example to you, for example, the Israel-Palestine example that we held as a debate when I was president of College Dems at Washington St. Louis, is a good example of we're not supposed to care what you say in that room. It's a debate held in that room, and after that room, the next event's going to be about something else, and the next event's going to be with the college Republicans, whatever. Are there individual students inside of any of these chapters that are going to either not hold to the right values, do something they're not supposed to do, be held or not be held accountable? I agree with you. All that stuff's going to happen. I'm answering your question from a what's supposed to happen perspective, and what I think mostly happens. Most of the time, these are event programming organizations. Anyone can sign up for these. And therefore, again, the affiliation is loose on purpose because they're meant to be a medium for conversation locally.
Okay, I disagree. But we can
You don't disagree.
I'm allowed to disagree. I can have my opinions.
You don't disagree. What do you disagree with?
I disagree for the same reason I told you before. You're never going to engage with this because you can't.
What do you disagree with?
When you're part of an organization, that organization's leadership represents the entirety of the organization. And that's how every single organization on the planet works. When the leadership is making decisions, the entire organization, to some extent, is going to be seen as standing by those decisions. That's how every single organized thing on this planet works.
So if the College Democrats of America invited, hold on, let me think.
You're going to have to think hard because whatever crazy example you were thinking initially, you realize that they would never do that. But go ahead.
He was thinking Zionist.
Well, I'm trying to think of a name that would be reasonable for them to invite.
What do you mean by reasonable?
Like that I think would be likely.
So some names would be more likely than others? Just to be clear, you're laughing because I'm 100% correct in this entire conversation. You know there would be some names that could be invited and some names that wouldn't be. Yeah, of course you are. You're laughing because you're fucked. Of course.
But that's life. That's life. I don't take that as a problem. I don't know why you do.
I don't take it as a problem. I'm taking it as it represents the organization. There are going to be some voices they're more likely to represent.
Deviation from values. For example, if they invited Bibi Netanyahu, that's different than them inviting an NYU professor who is a Zionist. Agreed?
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 Is it different? It is different, sure. What do you mean? I'm saying that they're more likely to invite one and not the other. Because why though? Because the people that they invite represents their values as an organization.
Sometimes, right? Like some of these biases are reasonable and some of them aren't.
Yeah, the biases are going to be in line with what you as an organization believes.
Right, but the organization in this case, this executive board that controls this event, whether we like it or not, the way that these chapters are federated, it's not like all of them got together and voted for this.
Didn't they get together and vote for the leadership?
So the way that works, and that's a really great question, is
this
there's
is
a state.
Super easy yes or no. The answer is yes. So the leadership does represent the chapters, whether you want it to or not.
Okay, hold on. Who do you think votes for the leadership?
I don't know, probably chapter presidents. Maybe each chapter sends a single vote, or maybe chapters are weighted based on how large their organizations are.
So I don't remember exactly how it works, but that's right. It's like the president of each chapter goes to the state thing. The state, sure. I think.
Maybe they get some delegate number based on whatever.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. So again, we get to the disconnection.
That's not a disconnection. What do you mean?
Why is that not a disconnection? When people voted for me to be president, they were not thinking about who I'd vote for. They had no idea what this national CDA was.
Would you not say that any American then votes for the president because a delegate can make the decision at the end of the day?
Well, of course. I mean, I think
I'm asking him.
Oh. I do think the president represents the entirety of the United States. Like if I went to Iran or if I was in some place,
we're responsible for, we don't share values with them.
I do think we're responsible, and I do think we as a country are communicating values. To some extent, he is the president of the United States. If I was,
he's an imperfect representation. Executive.
It doesn't matter. If I was at some place or whatever, and there were a bunch of Iranians there, and the Iranians were like, "Fuck you! You guys have fucking ruined my fucking shit," or a bunch of Palestinians there who had a bunch of dead family members from post October 7th or whatever, and they're like, "Fuck you guys," and you supporting Israel or whatever. I'm not going to sit there and be like, "Well, I was one of the people that did vote. I didn't vote for this guy." I'm like, I didn't vote for him, but like, yeah.
Would you justify that? Wait, hold on. Would you justify that means that any Israeli should be bullied by any Iranian right now?
Should be. I don't know, but I mean, I get it.
We would find that to be abnormal. I mean, no. When you say you get it,
hold on. Wait, just think before you speak.
Okay.
We would not consider it to be abnormal for an average Iranian to hate the average Israeli.
To hate the average Israeli?
Yes.
I'm in New York. I meet Israel. My friends are Israelis. I don't hate the average Israeli. I'm an Iranian American.
I said Iranian, not people of Persian
descent. I have family in
Iran.
I will call them overnight, and I will ask them if they hate the average Israeli.
You are sure.
You think that the average Iranian ascribes to the average Israeli?
Not the Iranian living in Brooklyn or Seattle. But not a Persian descent, Persian Iranian American.
Sure,
I think the average Iranian probably hates the average Israeli, yes. The average Saudi Arabian probably doesn't like the average Israeli. There's no way that the average Iranian has a positive opinion or neutral opinion of the average Israeli.
And neutral, by the way, you're challenging me here. Let me just think. I haven't thought about this.
That's fine.
I hear what you mean.
Look at all the countries in Europe. There's one country, well, I don't know now, but there was one country in Europe that had a really, really, really negative opinion of the United States. You know that one country is? It's Serbia. Why is that? Is that random, or is it because they're the ones that we fucking bomb the shit out of? That's not by accident, right?
But hold on. Do Serbians hold individual views about individual Americans? And by the way, I know that, like, again, we're talking about like expression of, or I'm thinking about this in two terms. It's like the expression of views. So as in, would they say something versus what do they feel about the average person? So for example, right now, if I meet a Russian person, I'm not going to necessarily ascribe to them all of the actions of Russia. Now, if we got into a debate about it, obviously, then I would, right? It's like a waterfall, or it's like a stagger of context. Hello?
I agree that the average person, if you were to sit them down at a bar and grab a beer with them and have a chat, that they would probably feel differently. But the country as a whole, especially an entire country that is acting in a certain way, presents a view to other countries on the planet, and as a collective, people will have viewpoints of other people in those countries, or at least of the people as a country.
Can happen, right? The reason the beer thing can happen is because there's this. We know there's a disconnection, right? We know that although generally speaking, we are responsible, obviously, for Trump.
There can be a disconnection to some extent in that an individual person can be fine, but that doesn't change your viewpoint of the people because the effect at the end of the day is what is that country doing to you?
Say it again.
The effect at the end of the day is what is the country doing to you?
Why does that make this different?
Because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is what is ultimately coming down as policy from DC, in a democracy especially. And people are going to feel that America is doing a fuck shit, and they're going to feel some responsibility for Americans supporting the regime to some extent, which they should, which is fair.
Yes, but to the extent at which you believed that person had ultimate agency, right, and you'd separate their ability to vote from their ultimate agency, you'd have a different level of disdain for the person.
I guess. I don't know what fictitious terms like ultimate agency. I don't know like what kind of weird philosophical concepts we're making to escape like the part of the conversation.
Person, we wouldn't ascribe to them all of the things, but we'd go, oh, did you vote? Who did you vote for? Who do you support? What do you do in your life? Obviously, depending on the context, we'd get to know more or less about them, right? But
maybe I would view Russians are harder. It's a little bit more difficult when it comes to like Russians because democracies, I think democracies you view a bit differently. Like I don't know if I would feel the same way about the average Iranian or Russian as I would about like fucking the average like Tory or whatever in the UK or Pierre Olivier or whatever the fuck Omidyar, the
Polyev.
Pokemon in fucking Canada. Democracies, I think, to some extent, it's your voice to the world, and it's not a dictator, it's not a monarchy. You can't complain that it's just the royal family. Like these are your people. That to some extent, not to some extent, Trump won the popular vote.
One time.
Oh, so you think 2020 wasn't rigged, loser?
True.
I don't know. I feel that this is an example of we would feel differently about different people, and it's on a spectrum, and we know that the disconnection, regardless of the type of government.
You're trying to find like these weird little weasel things that are like true but irrelevant.
I use the word weasel. I'm just chatting
because
with
you're
you, bro.
weason because you're making distinctions. Hold on. I don't even disagree with what you're saying though. So like, if we were to try to map this onto what we're talking about right now, if you were to ask me, do you really hate? Like, would you refuse? Cute girl messages you and she asks to go out to dinner. If you found out she was part of a college Dems, would you refuse to go to dinner with her? Would you if you were in a league game and you were queuing and you found out two of your people were in the college Dems, would you rage quit or feed? No, of course not. I don't hate any of those people personally. But would I, as a representative of destiny, my brand, my political whatever, would I do an event with the college Dems as representing their brand or front-facing entity? No, I wouldn't. But that's different than I hate the individual people.
You did proactively express this for several days, so I guess
practically express what?
Like I think the college Dems have to say something. Silence the complicity. I'll never do an event with them. So
yes,
you are pro. So I hear you that like yes, you would take context into mind, but the context. Of
no,
our
what do you think?
Is,
what do you think that you just said there that I said is different than what I just said? What?
I didn't say it's different. I'm saying I'm not like objecting to the idea that you would go on a date with somebody. I am objecting to the proactive statements that you're making. I agree that you're a more reasonable person than you might say, than comments you might make on a stream. I hear you. But you on a stream, at least again, the parts that I caught were hot towards the college Dems and hot towards these chapters and did paint a brush. And you did use the example of the Jewish Caucus League as like, oh, more people need to put out these statements or else I won't talk to them.
Because it's important. Because it's important to push people to make a statement. Because if I don't say anything,
that's what's different. That's my answer to your question. That's what's different about what you said versus what conversation.
Why would I not be? I want to make my preferences known publicly so that people have an opportunity to adjust.
I'm just saying that's why it's different. That's why it's different. That's what the question I was answering is like you bringing up this whole like, oh, I will use context. Yes, but in this case, you have proactively expressed something that will push people away or make them assume that you will not work with them.
Why would it push people away if they really do share all the values that you claim that we do share? It shouldn't push anybody away.
I know you hate this. But it's about legibility, right? It's like, oh, you've made it very clear.
Yes, and by me publicly stating that I'm not going to do any events with these guys because of them excluding me from an event, there's your legibility.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is unfortunately true to some of them, right? But again, I go like that. The consequences that falls to who you don't reach is too large.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
Can we talk about Mamdani?
Sure.
What what are you doing? Wait, actually, no. Let's talk about Vance first.
I want to talk about Mamdani now.
Let's do Mamdani next. I don't think you should launder Vance the way you did that one day.
Okay.
You sat there, and you basically yes-and everything he said without, as you often recommend, giving a proper media ingestion of the man and his incentives and what he's actually doing. And you added on to his views. Why do that?
I think that every single person that watches me knows my stance on slopulism and knows my stance on the things that he said. I'm sorry that you caught the one conversation where I wasn't hedging 50 million times over to make it explicitly clear that, no, I don't actually support right-wing populism.
Would you give this grace that you're giving yourself to somebody who's doing this on Hasan content?
It would depend on the totality of the content they did. If Hutch was watching a Hasan thing, and Hasan happened to have a really good performance somewhere, and Hutch was like, "Fuck!" Like Hasan had a lot of good talking points. He's given, I do this with Hasan sometimes.
Okay, fair enough.
Then I would say, yeah, that's fine.
I think I'll say I think you gave way too much to him in that one without the caveats.
The only thing I said, the only thing I quote unquote, the only thing I said that I gave him, quote unquote, was that it was just a really good appearance for him, which it was. But I wasn't.
No, but you also paused after good points and added on it. It's true, and this is why it's true, and he's right about this, and he is making a good point here, and
yeah, he did. He does identify a lot of true, correct issues.
I hear you, but
sure.
I think the ratio of kind of expression of agreement was problematic. I don't think it was just he made a good point. I think he was making those points towards a political end and a political mission that
I'm just going to hope and pray and trust that my audience knows that I am not a right-wing populist that supports JD Vance, and that when I say JD Vance, makes he's a good point. How he talks about the difference between right to work and labor unions here is actually a good point. I hope that my audience will think, oh wow, Destiny became a right-wing populist. I'm going to hope that they don't believe that, but anything's possible.
Okay, so what are your problems with Mamdani?
I just think we need stronger pushback against.
Wait, that's it? You're moving on?
Yep. Yeah, he knows I'm right. That's fine.
What? No, you can't just say he knows that you're right.
He's expressing it on a spectrum. I can't fight a spectrum fight. I think that on a spectrum, yes, you can say that someone has a good point every once in a while. That conversation, he did it for like an hour of a Joe Rogan conversation.
Well, what part was I wrong about?
That's absurd. Huh?
What was I wrong about?
You weren't wrong about anything. The problem is all of the things he says are bullshit, and he has expressed.
What do you mean all the things he says are bullshit? I don't know if anything he said was bullshit. His prescriptions are fucking retarded. But I mean, he's a right-wing populist.
The way that he represents those issues is devious and is part of his political mission. And so just affirming that he has the facts right without pointing out that actually all of his political mission, again, in a similar way that you'd say it's someone doing this with Hasan, you can't it's your responsibility. We have to have responsibility in the media. We have responsibility. We have to hold people to standards, blah, 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 blah. You did not do that in that conversation. You laundered his views. And for someone who catches a portion of your stream or who is dumber or whatever, they're going to go like, oh, wow, maybe this JD Vance guy does get it. And if he's right about these issues and identifies them, maybe later on, if it's him versus someone else, I'm going to vote for him because he does understand these issues. When you could have said, by the way, he said this thing on Iran. Let's look at what he did on Iran. He said this thing about people's paychecks. Let's look at what tax bill they passed. He's part of this admin. He has literally been Trump's fixer for a lot of these issues. And so I think you laundered way too many of those views without pointing out what he's actively doing, and therefore the deviousness of what he was saying on the podcast.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I don't think I needed to point those out to my audience. I think my audience knows pretty well at this point that I'm not right-wing and I don't support right-wing populism. And I don't even know if I would even agree directionally with a lot of your criticisms, but maybe that's a separate conversation. I feel like
about Vance.
Yes, because you're laughing, but a lot of even the examples that you're bringing up are things that Vance is explicitly distancing himself from. I think the Iran thing will be one of the. I think
because
it was one of the
political project. That's actually my point, right?
Yes.
And so even you thinking the Iran thing, you're not realizing the chess game that he is playing because he is exactly what I'm saying he is. He is planning these people, the group that he's a part of, the tech oligarchs, are very good at long-term games. If you think that there are pure representations there, no, they're representations that are aware of what the next election is going to be about. So insofar as he's distancing, it's not because what's good in his heart, and we know that because he doesn't do anything that he said was in his heart. He's written a book that he's gone opposite to. He has a wife that he acts in opposition to. He doesn't act on his heart. He acts on a political game. And so you saying that, he's even backing away from the Iran thing is further laundering and not realizing the political mission that he's on.
Okay. I mean, I just.
And by the way,
I fully disagree, okay.
I'm further with you on Hasan on this than I was a few months ago. And so this is just me kind of reflecting to you a little bit of what you're saying there. I think needs to be very cautious about a guy that's gaining a lot of popularity. Tucker Carlson is starting to talk about him a lot as the next candidate.
That was the entire fucking point of my coverage of that, was that a guy who was a fucking loser jerk who had all of the charisma of Ron DeSantis like 2 years ago just had an insanely likable appearance on the Joe Rogan show, and it's really scary how much he's distancing himself from all the crazy shit of his administration. That was the entire point of me watching it, and I'm pretty sure that anybody watching me watch it would have understood that, because I think I said that
my
like a million
recommendation
times.
is make that more legible. Okay. So.
No, I won't. I don't think I need to. I think I have the bona fides at this point to say that I don't have to say Trump bad every single time I mention something.
Given how though you're like at the same time, and I'm going to point this out. I mean this.
He's going to try to tie this to the college Dems. It's going to be the funniest fail in the world. Go for it.
Well, it's not about college Dems except tangentially, which is like, I think at the same time that you're doing a lot of the pro-liberal work that you're doing, a lot of the work is anti-left. And so a lot of these messages are going to be mixed in ways that you don't control, and it's not your responsibility or obligation. But insofar as you have a political project, I do think that mixing of messages is something to be aware of, conscious of, maybe more than you would typically be or want to be.
Thank you. I'm super conscious of it. I've been doing this for 10 years. I don't think anybody watching my stream came away thinking like, damn, I guess Destiny really likes JD Vance.
Fair enough. Cool. Just wanted to put those 2 cents in. So Lucas, should I go further or should I go to Mamdani?
Well, I mean...
Wait, let me use this real quick. Hold on one sec.
What do you think about the college Dems thing?
I think Steve can use his platform however he wants. If he doesn't want to fucking
what would you want him to do for the political
project? No, not however he wants. So I could support Nazis? Obviously, I wouldn't want to do that. I'll be right back.
Well... Your
vice dear leader will support whatever dealer does.
You can use your platform however you want. That's a fact.
Yeah. What would you want? You know, as someone who supports him and his political project.
Fuck the college Dems unless they put out a statement. It doesn't have to be the whole organization, but whatever individual chapters put out a statement, I think Steve probably should work with them to showcase that like he is willing to work with people who stand up for him and whatnot.
Do you think like an individual chapter has a lot of awareness and again, I'm not trying to abuse this word, but legibility insofar as like they understand that fight and what happened versus...
Well, if they don't, then they should look into it, huh?
It's hard, right? If you look into that, you know this, all you're going to see is those two yelling about each other, calling each other rapists, calling each other sex pests or whatever else. And like, that is literally all you're going to see. You're going to see like those two absolutely incomprehensible about each other, and so like it's almost it's lost on the person who wants to seek out what actually happened.
I don't think it is. I think it's lost on people who won't maybe actually put an effort to seek it out, but the knowledge is out there.
Okay, fair enough.
It's all there in one piece.
Disagree, but I hear you. Making any Legos?
I'm playing Lego Star Wars right now, the Skywalker Saga.
Oh, fun.
That's fun.
There might be some people that disagree with this as like a matter of strategy, but in the past, because I'm so humble and so aware of other people's limitations and their media environments or whatever, I have been super, super, super reluctant to push people to support me. I'm almost always okay either getting thrown under the bus.
That's a great value of yours. Yeah.
I think has been catastrophic for my career. I think that I should have stood way harder on forcing people to take stronger affirmative positions. About? Anybody, content creators, media people, like maybe even political people.
I agree on content creators. Do you think political people? I think that the political people is actually smart.
It depends. I don't know about political people, but definitely content creators. But
content creators, yeah, 100%.
Okay. Well, I think that's been a thing that I haven't done in the past. Now, I don't know if this was the reason, and I wouldn't expect them to admit it if it was, but I know of at least a couple people that were emailing Pacman about the stuff that happened, and Pacman for the first time. Who? What? Who asked?
Like other content creators?
No. Just like friends and fans.
Oh, okay.
And maybe that was why. And ordinarily in the past, right? This is probably one of the first times a big event has happened concerning me, where I've been calling out other people, saying like, "Hey, people need to say something about this. People need to talk about this. And Pacman actually said something, which is
You
good.
called out Pacman by name.
Yeah. And he did say something.
I'll be honest,
which is
too,
good.
he's just more normal than some of the other folks.
That's not an
I don't know
excuse
them as
anymore.
well.
That's not the moment we're in right now. Then leave. Don't do politics. Nothing about right now is normal. Everybody. If you're saying, if the excuse is like, well, I just kind of want to do normal politics. I can't do like all this weird drama shit. We have like a rapist.
No.
weirdo
I'm saying the
president.
opposite. I think one of the reasons he probably also spoke out in this moment. I don't know these other names that well, other than the sympathetic call, but like it's called the soy pill. That guy, like he seems to have gone in a different direction. Like some of these people are too online versus like Pacman. I think sees the farcical nature of those values, right? Like you not being let in is like on its face for 5,000 reasons. Like even if like going in you think, oh, like the things that you said were kind of crazy, the only thing that they should have done is they should have said, hey, Stephen, don't interrupt his event live. If there's a Q&A, you can stand in line. Like that's the maximum that anyone could possibly say and think of as reasonable. Absolute maximum. Because this is, again, college dems are supposed to be everyone who wants to come to the thing that is not obviously a Republican or conservative should be able to speak or at least attend the event, whatever. That is it. But I think that's because he's somewhat in normal politics where that value being held is important versus online politics where I think the other people perceive that there's either going to be punishment from Hasan and his crew or a lack of viewership or whatever else it is. So I think like the more you get involved with like Bulwark, David Pacman's of the world, I think they're going to be more likely to back you.
Only if I force it. I have to make public calls to action on it. Otherwise, people will just sit by and say nothing. That's the majority stance right now.
It's the easiest thing to do.
Yes.
Genuinely, I believe the only reason that David Pacman said anything is because he had multiple people emailing and asking him to talk about it. Otherwise, it would have been just very easy for him to just be quiet.
Probably, yeah.
Is it you making the call to action, or is it people kind of pressuring for it? Like, which one do you think?
It's me specifically. Because in the past, what I would have said is, I've said a lot of edgy things online. I can kind of understand why it's like difficult, and I don't want other people to like put their brands at risk for me or whatever. So that's what I would have said in the past.
Well, I also think in Pacman's case, it's also helpful that I don't know if this is still true, but he's growing really fast still, right?
I feel like a lot of people are a little bit stalled right now. I would have to go and check more. Okay. I don't know if like the Midas Touch people in Michael and everybody else are. Like I think there was a big explosion of growth several months ago. I don't know right now if people are they're still like doing good views, but I don't know if they're still super ultra growing.
The Midas Touch stuff, by the way, this is a complete aside, but you brought it up and I've been wondering about it for the past couple weeks. I don't get their clips and content that much. Like whose audience did they grab? Like are they cable news?
I think kind of like olderish, actually like middle-aged-ish probably, like lib crowd would be my guess.
Okay.
So like the people who might be a little bit too young for CNN, but aren't like quite in the like alternative media sphere.
Interesting. Yeah. Have you talked to them?
I don't know who all is on Midas Touch.
I mean, I don't know what they look like. It's like 3 guys, right?
I don't watch anything online. I'm a fucking super boomer, so.
Okay. So on Mamdani, I guess there's like a threefold piece to what I've heard you say recently. One, it's you want people to have a reason for liking him, I think, something to that nature. You want them to have like affirmative things that he's done. 2, that he's problematic for not having denounced.
At this point right now,
leftist.
the DSA stuff is too scary for me. I don't think I would. I don't think I would be supportive of anybody. I would just find other people to be supportive of other voices I would want to support.
So he
then
to me.
Mamdani, right?
What'd you say?
Then support Mamdani, right?
Then support Mamdani?
The DSA is too scary right now, so you wouldn't support Mamdani.
Correct.
Right now because
probably even AOC, I think, at this point, yeah. I just would want to stay as far away that I think they need to be choked off from oxygen as much as possible.
So I guess three or one sub question to that, and then 2 that we'll advance on. The sub question is when you say not support, this means not talk positively about, not if there was an election, not support an election. Like what does not support mean in the case of Mamdani? Or
I would probably cheer for him to be primaried, and then I'm not going to glaze him or anything like that.
Okay, interesting. And it's the DSA thing is too hot. I guess it like that stance happened so fast. I don't know the logical chain other than you deciding the DSA is too hot. Is that the logical chain?
I think there was at least one really weird DSA person that got elected. I can never pronounce her. Was it the Chevrolet or whatever the fuck?
Yeah.
Person. And then there is the college Democrats event. It was kind of pretty bizarre to me that could play out the way that it did.
What does that do with him?
Well, I mean, I consider these all to be like DSA or commie ML associated things. The Plattner stuff was really stupid, and then the El Sayed stuff is bothering me.
Do you think DSA people have a problem with you? Because I view that event as being like a very Hasan, doing Hasan things sort of thing. I don't know that I've ever seen like the DSA have like a.
I imagine most of the people, if they know anything about me, would have a very negative opinion about me. But I think there's like a
they
subversive
have a
communist
liberals, but like
I think there's a subversive communist thing happening in the United States, and I think that the DSA is like the biggest launderer of that right now. So I would want to choke them off as much as possible.
So Mamdani is doing a good job of being what I'd call kind of a. I'd say AOC did this as well, like an adjustment DSA member, as in kind of campaigned obviously aggressively to the left, but is mayoring extremely pragmatically. And we can go through examples because I know you want people to have receipts, but like before we go there, I don't know if that's like where we would disagree.
Doesn't matter, but sure.
Yeah. So like if he's doing a good job and he is pragmatic, I would consider him to be a liberal governor, not governor, literally like governor as in a politician, a liberal politician who.
Sure. If you want your arguments to survive my feelings, then you need to tell me why this hypothetical doesn't work, or you need to see how you would deal with the hypothetical. Let's assume we would apply all of this to a Nazi, and we would say that there is a guy who is part of the Nazi National Socialist Party of America, but he governs generally as a liberal and blah blah blah. Would you make these same arguments that we should be roughly supportive of him, or no?
No.
Okay. Well, that's how I feel then. You can tell me why it's not the same, or. Wait, did my internet die? Hello?
No,
you're good.
I'm like, it feels obvious to me that it's not the same, so I'm trying to like not just blurt out.
Because you're probably not as far away from the radical ML types as
you say that. What other than Israel Palestine? What topic do you think I'm not that far away from them on?
I don't know, command economy related stuff.
Name one command economy thing that you think that I am closer to DSA than a whatever.
You're dodging the question now.
I don't know, Mike. How about things like rent control?
I'd hate rent control. I literally, you can probably find tweets about me
How
talking
about public housing, right for all, decommodification of housing?
None of those things.
How do you feel about like abolish the police or abolish prisons?
I do not support abolish the police or abolish prisons. Didn't I tell you that I almost voted for Cuomo until I got negatively polarized that weekend because I disagree with Mamdani's politics?
Then I'm wrong, and I don't know why you don't think these people are a concern then, and you'll have to tell me why.
Well, one of the reasons, and again, I'm trying to think through, so let me just give this one thing, and then
wait, hold on. Firstly, do you agree that what I just said, these are all like kind of pretty open parts of the DSA platform?
I think two things, and one of them we've talked about.
Okay, hold on. We're gonna do a thing. When I ask a question, you have to answer yes or no, and then you can explain afterwards. But you have to answer the question, and then.
But you have to let me explain afterwards.
Yeah, I'm not. Why would I ever cut somebody off just because they say yes or no? I've never done it. Just answer the question and then explain afterwards. That's fine. Yeah.
Say it again then.
Do you recognize the things that I just said are like open parts of the, like they just publish like a DSA policy platform? I'm pretty sure these things are like open parts of the DSA platform.
I haven't read it, but I assume so, yes.
Okay.
And the two nuances. One is the thing we've often talked about. I think like people who affiliate with these are doing so for a variety of reasons. Politicians for probably real reasons of being aligned with those platforms. But then the people voting for them and who sign up for the party, and I've sent you the data on this, they actually turn out to hold more standard liberal positions. But the DSA has captured them as a label because they either have expressed pain in the right way, or they like a specific politician.
And if the same thing were to apply to a Nazi party, why wouldn't you hold the same standard?
Hold on.
If the Nazi party were to draw in a bunch of people that were roughly like liberal, like liberalism, whatever, like traditional conservatives aren't necessarily Nazis, but they feel like their crime grievances.
I think my answer is going to wind up being that like the value that the Nazi parties, the counter values or the extreme values of the Nazi party have are so what's what I'm looking for?
Were you about to say they were so different from yours, but then you realize that you okay? Then my question is, what part of the DSA platform do you think the values aren't that far away? Because I would consider them to be about as far away as the Nazi ones for me.
No, come on. You think rent control is as far away as Nazi values?
For the subversive elements of the DSA, yes. If you're talking
Right,
about
but
like,
again,
if you're talking about,
the question
if you're
is
talking
who
about,
are the subversive parts versus the reasonable parts?
well, the question is do the reasonable parts try to push away the subversive parts? And I don't see that ever happening. If that was happening, I would feel differently about
maybe
it.
that's the conversation. Yeah. So, but by the way, so like I'm in New York. A lot of my friends call themselves DSA or more Bernie, whatever. Like when I debate rent control with them, they're not coming at it from like I foundationally believe, like they're people in normal jobs. They don't come out with a foundational theory of housing. They come out with like we need to do something about the pain that either they feel or
I agree with
they
that.
think other people are feeling.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But like when I say like I'm worried about like their stance on rent control, I don't care about rent control. Like even a normal liberal can have a pro rent control. I think it's dumb, but there's like room for that in my political ideology. What I'm thinking of is the people who are obsessed with the concept of the decommodification of anything that they consider to be some human right to life, in which case it also calls for the abolition of all capital related to that particular thing, and all of it should be provided by government public housing or whatever. Like that's the big belief that's powering the DSA's rent control thing. It's not just rent control, because they think that price controls can be an effective means of helping some people. It's because they think the commodification of what should be a basic human necessity is evil.
Yeah, I guess. Do you think? I don't want to use Mamdani specifically, but he might be the only like useful, in practice version of this. But like he is implementing both rent control or rent freeze on already public housing.
Whatever you're going to talk about from Mamdani's policies, I haven't seen anything from Mamdani's policies that I think are super problematic. So it's not going to be the policy level. It's just that he's courting and representing the rest of the DSA, and the entire DSA wants to like ride off of his success.
But he's also said the opposite, right? He said he's open to like more conservative politicians in more conservative areas, right? So he said big tent. He hasn't said
that's fine.
like,
but if your big
DSA
tent
everywhere.
includes, like, if I have a big tent of cells in my brain, and some of those are fucking glioblastoma or whatever the fuck is a malignant cancer cell, it doesn't matter. That's a big tent. The
Right, but okay, you use rent
subversive
control as
elements
an
are
example,
gonna-
and I might not be aware of some of the extremes here, but like the DSA list, the laundry list that you and I could go through, I would say none of those are close to being equivalently far away from our values as a Nazi party would be. I think most of them are extreme versions and probably low information versions of the same kind of policy issues we would take, but they have problematic prescriptions.
I
Like
disagree.
the grocery-
I think it's a different thing in kind. When it gets to a certain level, it's not just a more extreme version. There's a thing I push
I agree
against
with you
a
on
lot.
a certain level, by the way. Hold on, just to be clear. Like people would take that all the way. I agree with you, but I don't know who those people are.
I mean, there are people like Hasan Piker. There are people like the one lady, the crazy lady or whatever. I can
Let me clarify. I don't know that I see them as such a lot. Like there are liberals who I disagree with a lot.
I don't think that they're a huge voice. Maybe not even in the broader DSA movement yet, but they are a big voice in their media movement. And nobody in the Liberal Party even seems to be able to push back against it at all. So I seriously doubt.
Supposed to speak out about that?
Oh my God, no, I guess not. I don't feel, because it's like the prescription. It's the parent adult or the adult child for every single person that's not me. It's like, can Mamdani do anything? Can the person who's not you speak out against anything? Can anybody at all do anything? Is the guy who considers himself to be the head, is the guy who considers to be the most popular DSA person in the country, share any responsibility for the direction of the party? I guess in your world, no, because his name isn't Stephen Bunnell II. But in my world, I would say, yeah, if you're the head of that like political movement, it probably behooves you to make statements guiding that movement in certain directions and to do everything you can to keep at bay.
Statement that he would make, let's say next week, that would be reasonable for the mayor of New York to make, that would get at what you're talking about?
I don't know, anything pushing against or disavowing the more radical elements of the party or whatever.
What would that look like?
I don't know what it would look like. I guess I would have to think more specifically. But whatever I would think of, it would be less radical than, for whatever fucking reason, him making statements about wanting to arrest Netanyahu.
Okay. I still would like to know what it looked like, because the Netanyahu thing is a follow-up from a campaign promise that he made. So
Description. Describe more for me, please.
I don't understand genuinely the prescription.
What do you think I'm going to say if you say that was a follow-up from a campaign promise? Hold on. A person comes in and he rapes somebody to death, okay? And I go, Jesus Christ, he shouldn't have raped them. And you say, well, he promised that he was going to rape that person 3 hours before going to their house. What do you think I would say to that?
Well, sorry, I wasn't saying that you have to agree with the idea that he has any scope over Netanyahu, but I'm trying to get you to imagine or give us something to imagine about what he releases a statement next week.
I'm asking you. No. I'm asking you. What do you think I'm going to say about the Netanyahu thing that you just said? Well, that was a campaign promise he made. What do you think I'm going to say in response to that?
That it was out of scope.
Yeah, I would say he should have made the promise. Obviously.
Okay. But that's not the question that I'm bringing to you. I'm bringing you to the question of, insofar as you believe he should make statements today, moving forward, or kind of in this time zone that we're in right now, what would that look like? What is appropriate for him as a mayor of New York to make as a statement?
Well, I guess it would be related to. Do you want a specific statement that I think he should make to disavow more radical parts of the DSA?
Yeah.
One question.
Yeah.
If I can. It's not about the statements he made. I'm sorry, Sherveen?
Yeah.
Sherveen. Yeah, that's all great.
I mean,
yeah.
Bean. Yeah, sorry. Is that the question to you, basically? Is he propelled and supported and endorsed at least two people. I think there are three. Dylan showed me the third person, but I think at least two of them are Stalinists that support the entire destruction of NATO, total, basically, isolation of United States from any effect of affecting any countries, basically removing all the bases from Europe, NATO, obviously, at the very least, and all other shit, but that's enough for me personally to bring up right now. Do you think him endorsing those people, and essentially they came to power thanks to him because of his popularity and his political capital, and he's a very, very prominent person with a lot of power right now. So it was his endorsement that led him to let those people inside the the political government body, right? So is that not enough?
I'd say I don't know. And the reason I don't know is because a lot of the same things that were thrown at him were old. And so, by the way, you could tell me about this. So, for example, a lot of the statements he was trying to be held accountable to during his election were from when he was young. I do give a lot of room to people who are young. So if these NATO statements were from like 10 years ago that this person made, and they wouldn't say the same. It was modern.
Yep.
Okay. And then this is for local races, state races. What were they up for?
I'm not an expert by any means of Ukraine, of how American Congress works. Obviously, I'm not gonna be pretend that
for congressional races.
I believe the Chevalier person, right, and the other woman, I forgot unfortunately her name.
Federal National Congress,
Yeah. That's I know absolutely nothing about.
Actively talking about the demolishment of NATO.
Yeah, she publicly spoke about it, and also about the one statement that people brought up was really old, was about race mixing. That was like, very old statement. She basically is against race mixing, typical lefty shit. But anyway,
I'll admit, by the way, that I saw like some of these headlines, but the past month I've been kind of wacky.
Yeah, that was old. So I'm not taking this. I'm surely she changed her mind. Yeah, I mean, I'm memeing. Of course she didn't, but she's not gonna say that publicly anymore. But that was old time. That was like 5-6 years or some shit ago. But and you can even read the DSA's official. A friend of mine sent me their actual publicly posted on their website, for example, their politics, considering NATO, considering foreign aid, considering things like, for example, even I think most of them are even against US aid. So they're like, it doesn't matter anymore. It has been cancelled by, obviously, Trump. So who cares at this point? But yeah, it's just that, just open up their platform, read their views up with that concern, for example, NATO, Europe, Ukraine involvement, Israel, obviously, that's a given. That they're against any aid to Israel, defensive, offensive, doesn't matter. But that's a whole other subject. Those people are the people that he pushed actively into power. So what do we think? Do we think he agrees with those people? Like, I give you 3 points. Point A, he agrees with those people. That's his political views. By the way, his wife is straight up Stalinist.
I don't agree with you on his wife. So let's leave his wife out of this. I've done enough reading on the wife. I think attacking the wife is unreasonable. Let's not do it.
Oh, okay, so she'll like it October 7th.
Real quick. What do you mean when you say wait? Well, no, but I'm just curious. When you say unreasonable, do you think it's because people mischaracterize their views, or do you think because it's not fair to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can debate it. I think it's maybe useful to put aside. Yeah.
Fine, let's put the wife out of this, although I don't think that's reasonable, but
whatever.
We
can come back. Sorry, just to be clear. Again, what Steven just says is correct. I'm not opposed to debating the wife. I just think people mischaracterize the statements, so we should do that second.
We don't need to bring her into this conversation at all. Like, maybe he has no agreements with his wife. Possible. But anyway, point is that I am memeing, obviously. Yeah. So anyway, point is that he let's not bring his personal life. His wife doesn't matter. Point is that either we have two options, right? Either he agrees with those people and they actually shares his views, but he wears a mask that cancels his views because he's politically savvy and he's smart enough not to go around screaming about Stalin, Mao, and proletarian revolution and decommodification and all of that shit that will make him highly unpopular. He's now courting the liberals, obviously, right? So it would be stupid for him to say that. He's not Hasan. So he will present this like palatable socialism. I just want to make the city life better. And he's objectively, apparently, a good mayor so far. So,
he's fantastic.
Yeah. So see, he got you. So he's
and with policies. I can tell you very specifically, and I'm happy to, about why. And by the way, again,
just to be clear, he's okay. The idea that he's done some fantastically amazing job is not. We still have time to.
Sorry, let me put it differently. For the amount of time he's been in, he has so far done what I call an A-level job, and that is across a variety of initiatives around childcare, housing. Even policing. He's added to the police force. He's kept in Tish. He worked with Hochul on childcare.
Like
he has a fantastic. Sorry, go ahead.
Sure.
Why he's propelling people? I have nothing to say about his actual policy in New York. That's not the conversation.
Yeah, I'm
not
just reacting to Steven.
I'm just saying that why then he endorsed, propelled, and completely supported people like Daria Riza.
So this is the person with the NATO opinion, or the
the other one is basically the same opinion, but I just know more about this one. So because Trek Ukraine posted a lot about her. So yeah. So why?
I think probably two things. One, I don't think he disagrees probably with her as much as you and I would. So I think there's I don't know if it means though he would support literally what she believes, right? But probably it's closer. So I'll acknowledge there's probably closeness there. Two, I think he believes, and I think a lot of the DSA believes, that there is a coalition that they're trying to get into office, not necessarily, and this is where you and I would start to disagree again, to like impose, as Stephen put it, the destruction of capitalism and the world order and all this other stuff. I think they actually have as a whole, I think they have tamer views in that. And again, I've sent polling to Stephen in the past around at least the people voting have much tamer views, and we see that. Even
these two people don't. Like the people who actually got into power.
Fair enough. But I guess that means I don't think that like this coalition building will work in the same way they expect. So I think that he probably views it somewhat as like a coalition of people to bring into office in the same way that like we would view that if we were talking about getting enough votes for something in the Senate.
Okay, let's say it doesn't happen tomorrow, obviously. That a bunch of fucking Stalinists are going to be in the Democratic Party. I'm not saying it will. It's stupid. But let's say 10 years from now on, we have a person like Mamdani, who will continue, I imagine, to be loved and popular and all of that shit, right? And he and other people will pull more people like that, and then more people like that into the Democratic Party to a point when then they actually do have political weight. They're not just a couple of crazy people there, right? They're like, now they actually have a significant political sway. Then what?
Mm-hmm. What are you asking me?
Now, let's say those people, there are many of them there, they have a lot of power, they have a lot of popularity. You also live now in the era of populism in America. So left populism appeals to people just like right populism does. So let's say they gain more and more and more and more power. So now what you have, for example, there is a vote on should America stay in NATO? And those people vote a particular way. So what do we say to that? Is that a good thing? Is it a good thing to allow? Then I have no further questions. Why a person like Steven would not glaze Mamdani anymore? Because yeah, that's where it leads. More people
So glazing
like
Mamdani
that.
leads to the destruction of NATO. Is that the
Exactly,
argument?
Mamdani himself, but people propelling themselves there. But he propelled
I guess
people that
I have what I thought was the standard view of kind of the Obama era liberal that I consider myself, that this is like a big tent party, and so you're going to have a variety of factions in the party, and they're going to swing.
This is, yes, I understand that. Of course, you also can appeal to the fact that there's so little of them now. Like, who cares, right? We have bigger problems, which is Trump, obviously. Good argument.
Hold
I
on.
hear it a lot.
Just as a quick truism,
yeah.
what do you think big tent means?
Means the tent's big.
What does that mean?
What are you asking me?
I'm asking you, when you say we have a big tent party, what does that mean?
I think that, generally speaking, when we talk about that on the left, because it's different on the right, we know that there are a variety of subgroups and subpopulations. Some of this might be
do the rape dems get into the big tent?
Demographically. Sorry?
Do the rape dems get to join the big tent?
No.
Okay, why not?
They deviate too far from our values.
Okay. So when you keep saying big tent as like this catch-all for, I guess, like socialists or commies or whatever, but I would argue, or I would feel, that commies I'm not in the tent with them. There is no tent that we share. So when you keep saying, well, it's a big tent party, these are people that I wouldn't consider ever to be a part of my coalition. Same thing with the rape dems. I wouldn't want to be in their tent either.
Who are you talking about? Who is a commie right now?
The entire left-wing media, the far-left media ecosystem, and then...
Okay. Is Mamdani?
No, but the problem is he's courting them, and he's empowering them
fair enough.
without forcing them to change their perspective on things. And so he's empowering them.
Yeah, he fully endorsed those people. Condemnation.
He's making a great he's being a great role model, I would say, towards a practical politics, because what he's done so far is very in line, by the way, with prior. Okay, you can say that, right? But also, he knows he needs to be effective. So one of the mediating forces, in addition to just kind of process in this country, is he has to work with other people. You're never going to get all DSA. You're never going to get all Nazi. You're never going to get all rape.
Stop. Hold on. No, wait. You're okay. Are you aware of the selective zoom in and out game that you're playing? Like, you're speaking in these broad truths that are just absolutely not applicable here. Mamdani's endorsement in New York City is good as fucking gold. Do you think that if Mamdani were to say, listen, I will endorse you, but like, we got to just put something in on the website about Ukraine, okay? Jesus. Do you really think that some of these people are like, nah, fuck you, nothing about it? If that was the case, then that says either one of two things. Either one, they have a very principled commitment to that position, or that would just mean that they must have a very principled commitment to that position then, right? So when you tell me, you're speaking these generalities like, well, you have to bring in a lot of different people and blah, 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 blah. Mamdani's like a kingmaker for New York politics right now. He doesn't have to do that. You're saying this like he's beholden to whatever. He's not. He's a kingmaker right now.
Wait, I guess I'm reacting to a lot of things. So I'm not the one zooming in and out, right? I was asked about like what happens in 10 years if NATO is destroyed because these people have taken over the party. So you are the one zooming way too far in, not me.
What? The argument is that if you're courting the argument is that if you're courting extremists and you're not capable of saying no to them, and what's more, you've lent them your political power, and once more, you're courting them while, in your own words, you're ruling as an effective moderate, you are building so much credibility up for these people that don't even deserve it, because they're getting it off the back of your moderate... That is what we're talking about. That's what everybody's talking about. That was already...
The zoom out, right, but the zoom out was about the idea of NATO being destroyed. So
yes.
We're talking...
Wait. Why is that so hard to understand,
Are we talking about like one candidate at a time or one policy at a time? That's different than if we're talking about whether or not they will take over the party. Because, for example, do I think Mamdani is a sign that in 10 years...
Hold on. Do you think that... Hold on. I'm just curious. Hold on. Wait. Do you think that... I understand that Anna's... no offense, Eastern European, okay. Do you think that her point was that Claire Valadier or whatever the fuck is going to come in and put on the floor the fuck NATO bill and end it in a few months? Do you think that's what she meant?
Speaking in those generalities, because I think she's making a point about a longer time horizon.
Obviously. So
yes.
Why did it take us so long to get...
That's why I'm reacting in a longer time horizon. I don't know why you're upset about that.
Well, first of all, the way
you were the one who made it about like a specific candidate who has a specific policy issue that Mamdani isn't forcing something on. I'm making the zoomed out. I'm addressing the zoomed out point.
The zoomed out point is that there are coercive and subversive forces in the party, and you can see that in particular that Mamdani is courting them without forcing any policy changes. That's the particular specific example, and then the long term is what you think would happen.
If we want to use that as the example, then we have to talk. Then now let's zoom in. When you say he is courting them, when we say the word court.
And he literally brought them to the...
Let me just add some context here. Like, I've got some quotes up to support Anna's point here, right?
We're going to give you like 2 minutes, both of you, because it's supposed to be Steve and Sherveen. Just a heads up.
Yeah, I'm out.
Okay,
I said what
but if you endorse somebody
Okay,
that says after the invasion of Ukraine, the Cold War ended and we've been bullying Russia ever since, do you not think that person that you're endorsing is also partly speaking for you?
First of all, I think whoever said that is fucking stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the person.
Got it. Do I think? And what was your? Do I think that they're speaking for you?
If you endorse somebody with such a radical view, do you not think that radical view is kind of then something that you're supporting by endorsing that person?
I'm going to say this carefully because I don't want the reaction to be so extreme. I think it depends. Well, look, when I voted for Mamdani, hold on. When I started to talk publicly that I like Mamdani and that I was going to vote for him, in comparison to my alternatives, Steven, since you decided to laugh, do you think I was endorsing that I have all of his views?
Yeah, but these are known views.
Wait, hold on. Sorry, I want Steven to answer the question.
Right?
Just real quick.
Can I just let me speed run this real quick? I'm going to say no, not necessarily all of the views, but there are some views that you might potentially endorse. You'll say, well, how are you supposed to tease those out? And then I'm going to say, well, look at the example you gave with the college Democrats. Them banning Destiny wasn't enough for all the national chapters to take a position, but if they were to ban black people, that would be, because according to your phrasing, well, that would be too large a deviation away from the beliefs that I hold to be true and important. So if Mamdani comes in and he also has a view that there needs to be a New York City day to celebrate Islamic heritage, you might not support that, but you might still support him for broadly the rest of his politics and the rest of his policies, and that'd be fair. But if he had a viewpoint saying today is going to be the national day of kill women, you probably wouldn't support him because that's such a deviation. It's such an impactful thing that I would say you wouldn't endorse him.
Yep. So now we need to get 100% agree with everything you just said. So the reason, tell us, when did this person, you said right after the invasion, so this is...
Yeah, I mean, she did
What year did she say this?
Just afterwards, so in 2022. She did update, by the way. So let's quote her again. I would not use much of the language I used back then today. I now believe it's deeply important to use unifying, accessible kind of language. She didn't take back her position. She just said we've got to be more careful with how we say things. And this is really scary. It looks like the Tea Party version going on in the Democrats. And sure, looking at the bigger picture over a longer time, oh yeah, maybe we have a few years to wait. But the longer you wait, the deeper the rot. It's much easier to sort this out earlier on by recognizing it earlier on.
So I want to hold two things to be true here. The first is really, really important, and I've tried to express this, and I don't know if I've unconvinced or convinced even of this over time. But when I first started to chat, I share the concerns that this room seems to have, and I have long lost friendships and business relationships over this concern. The same way I have on the fighting with my industry in tech, but on my friendships and my political friendships, I am very concerned about the left. I've hated Bernie before anybody hated Bernie because I paid attention to politics all my life. I dislike kind of where the left is taking some portions of the party. I see it as reasonable, or I can kind of understand why it's happening in a lot of different ways, and so can rationalize that. So I think of it as a healthy mission, the thing that you mentioned, of rooting this out or preventing it or beginning to mitigate against it. I agree with that mission. However, this is the second piece. I disagree that the way to do that is to just chomp at every bit against these individuals, because just like the right and just like the old versions of the left, there will be disparate parts of your party. And so part of what you have to do is have the big tent. And having the big tent means you're going to hold some people with some views, and you hope to contain them that you disagree with. So this person has two statements that I don't find, hold on, these two statements are not so extreme that I think, this is like the red line for me on Mamdani because he endorsed this woman. These two statements as a whole seem to me to be a version of she's an idiot, but she doesn't even have a fully formed opinion, that I, like her opinion is just dumb. It's not even fully formed.
Well, they seem pretty concluded. She doesn't finish with a question, right? She finishes with a conclusion. And
right, but it doesn't sound like she's making a lot of statements on it in general.
She clearly wants the abolition of NATO.
MrRiffs, we're going to get this back to just them two.
No, there is a clear difference between people wanting certain policies and being able to discuss policy, and there being an ideological bent that basically means your own political destruction. And that's what these people are after. I'm all for a broad church, or a broad tent, however you want to describe it. right? I mean, my politics is fairly left-wing sometimes, but on the ideological side of things, you have, if the other person's not pluralistic and willing to listen to your position, you can't be in the same tent with them.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Okay,
I actually think this is one of the things about Mamdani that I think he's shown. And again, the endorsements is one thing, but if you look at his politics, he's working with a governor who they started off, kind of in a questionable place from the relationship perspective. He was working with a police commissioner where he started off in a questionable place.
None of this matters. You're not pluralistic if you incorporate people that aren't pluralistic, no matter how many other types of people you have incorporated.
Say that differently.
You can't say this person is willing to work with a whole bunch of people if some of the people he's willing to work with have the life goal of eradicating every other aspect of the coalition you're building. That's not like a cute, clever cheat code in order to call yourself pluralistic.
Eradicating every other part of the coalition.
That's what she's after. He's back.
I know that we perceive it that way.
It's not perception. It's really clear. She's now speaking more carefully. But she's even admitting to that. She wants a change of language.
We always say this. She's now speaking more carefully. I think a lot of young people say a lot of things that they disagree with later in life when they become adults.
What about October the 8th? The day afterwards, she was celebrating what Hamas did.
Terrible.
I mean, you can't have
Can you link me to that, please?
I will do after our jump off. But
can I guess that it's going to be something where she expresses some solidarity for Palestinians and was not cheering for whatever happened on October 7th? You might disagree with that, but
October the 8th. This was October the 8th, right? She was doing this.
Yeah, I know, but I know this room and this crowd has a different view. I won't get into that.
Well, we can debate this later. I don't want to take up any more time, but yeah.
Continue for me.
But,
I like riffs. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, a lot of sounds just happened. So, where were we?
If you are dealing with somebody of a political nature, and the name is Stephen Bunnell II, they got a lot of political responsibilities. They got to be messaging to everybody. They've got to be operating selflessly and with maximum humility. But if you're no-name retards like Mamdani, you just have to kind of take what you can get, and you can only operate in one way because Jesus, there's basically nothing else for you to do on the planet. And same thing with the college
I had
dems
asked
and everybody
you,
else.
and you still haven't given me an example of what statement you think would be reasonable for him to make next week.
It's unacceptable for anybody in my party to not. And you should be supporting Ukraine as much as you support the Palestinians.
You think that next week he should make a statement that anyone in the Democratic Party should support Ukraine as much as the Palestinians? That's what you think.
Yeah. Is there an echo in here?
Okay. Do you know why that's unreasonable?
Why?
I bet you're going to tell him.
Expect anybody to make that sort of a statement?
Why not?
Not the sort of statement that makes logical sense. Why would anyone make that statement?
Why would you? Why? How does it not make logical sense to support the Ukrainians
why
as
would
much as
anyone
the
make
Palestinians?
that statement? What is the catalyst?
There is currently a
for
war
somebody to
going
make that
on
statement?
in Ukraine, and the United States has been reluctant to support them.
Why are other people not making that statement?
Some people aren't, because it's not a very politically salient issue. Maybe to the average
Okay, so
American.
let's say that I accept that that's why. That's one of many reasons. But so why would Mamdani be expected to make that statement? Why is that something you want of him?
He wouldn't be, because his name is not Stephen Bunnell II, and he is a slave to the current winds of politics. But you know what was a really important statement to make is that he needs to arrest Mamdani when he comes to New York City. My God. Or he needs to arrest Netanyahu. Thank God we have the New York mayor. Thank God we have the New York City mayor. Now I rescind. I take back every compliment that I gave him on the Western Wall shit. I thought it was weird and cringe to ask the mayor of New York City, would you go to the Western Wall and blah, blah, blah. I was like, he's the mayor of New York. Why the fuck would I care? Fuck him. Fuck you. Why would you even ask this question? What a weird virtue signal. But then now I completely rescind it. I don't know. Now I look at that statement highly sus, because it's his statement there was, I'm the mayor of New York City. I'm here to govern New York City. Base. That's true. But now when he wants to talk about arresting Netanyahu, okay, so that was a lie. That was a virtue signal.
Well, he's the mayor of a city that Netanyahu's constantly in, no?
It doesn't matter.
If
he arrested
once?
Netanyahu,
and by the way, when
federal
Netanyahu's
authorities
here,
would have...
do you think New York is very involved when Netanyahu's here?
What do you mean involved?
The police, the mayor's office,
Probably
other
not that much.
agencies.
Not any more than any other world.
Probably
I'm sorry. What you
a
think
lot.
that Macron?
For every world leader.
Yeah, for every world leader, not Netanyahu especially.
So it's in his purview.
to arrest him?
It's not in his purview to arrest him, but it's in his purview to think about him.
Oh. Is that what we were talking about? My criticism of Mamdani is that he thinks about Netanyahu?
No,
wait. I want you to say that. Was my criticism of was my criticism? Yeah, was my criticism that he thinks about Netanyahu?
It wasn't.
No, but I was justifying why he was asked this question, or why would have an opinion on this question. If he
have an opinion on arresting
the mayor of a
him?
city, he knows he can't. But yes, if he is the mayor of a city that deals with world leaders, then he's going to have an opinion on what he thinks should be done with world leaders. One of the views he had that he corrected is that the mayor of New York has authority to do this, and then he corrected that view, and he's like, okay, I actually can't do this.
Okay. Then in that case, we can strike out the rest of the conversation. I just don't support him at all because I don't think people with cognitive deficits should be in any kind of like major political office. If he's retarded and he thinks that like the New York City mayor has the authority to unilaterally decide to arrest world leaders, he's just not qualified for the job. He should probably be impeached.
I'm sure it was not a unilateral belief.
Then it's even worse. He's chosen to surround himself with equally uneducated people.
Okay. So let's go back to
cabinet's
reasonability
fucked.
on this. He again, from what he's done so far as mayor, has done a good job. So the endorsements to you represent what you believe is an underbelly intention.
Hold on.
Or lack
So
of
do you
willingness
agree
to
that it would be
address the
fair?
underbelly?
Do you agree that it would be fair for him to make a statement that there's no room in the Democratic Party for somebody who doesn't support the Ukrainians as much as you would support the Palestinians?
Do I agree it's reasonable for him to make that statement?
To expect him to make a statement like that?
I think it's unreasonable to expect that.
Do you think it's reasonable to expect him to make a statement like that if he's willing to make a statement about masturbating to the idea of arresting Netanyahu? Do you think it would be reasonable for him to expect?
He campaigned on that one. Whether or not you think that was reasonable to campaign on, it's still something that people voted for, and therefore he felt the need to address, given that Netanyahu was talking about coming here.
Okay,
so
hold on.
approximately,
I'm just
yes,
checking.
it's reasonable.
Okay, fine. If he wanted to rape children because he ran on that, would you say, well,
Chill.
he campaigned on it? Why?
Chill.
No. You keep giving the stupid descriptive argument of, well, he campaigned on it. My issue is the thing that he did, regardless of if he campaigned. I don't know why you keep saying, well, he campaigned on it. Like that's an escape for what I'm arguing.
Well, it is, and the thing to think about is at the time at which he made that promise. By the way, you didn't have that much of a problem with him at the time that he made the promise. So you're part of the affiliation here. He was saying something about the future.
To be clear, my thought at the time was I wasn't really sure how subversive. I think that the problem has gotten worse and worse and worse, especially seeing the people that he chose to endorse, especially after backstabbing the one moderate dude and endorsing a wacky radical lady. So
backstab.
I don't remember the guy. It was a Jewish dude, I think. It was I don't want to say Goldstein. Was that his name? I don't remember.
It's probably Goldman or Goldstein.
I feel like it was. Somebody in chat might know, but before it's not at all. But he chose to endorse.
Can you engage with his hypothetical, Sherveen?
No.
Wait, hold on. I addressed. He's not engaging with what I said. So because he made that sort of.
Oh, was it
even
Lander?
At the time, he didn't betray Lander. What are you talking about?
Brad Lander versus Dan Goldman.
Didn't Lander get elected to something?
He endorsed Lander.
Yes.
But the other guy,
who literally was like one of his best warriors during the election.
It was the other Chevalier. I don't know. I don't know why Chad is answering questions if they don't know the answer. And I'm too lazy to look it up right now.
Chad, you are wrong.
People just start typing random names because they're fucking memers. Okay, that's okay.
So again, because he said something about the future, it's reasonable for him now to address what he said about the future, including with his update on his priors. And again, at the time, you might or might not have thought of this group of people subversive or not, but either way.
Did he say at the time that he was going to arrest Netanyahu? Did he say that at the time?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. Something like,
okay,
I agree with the ICC.
It's important if he
that
said it or
arrested.
not. Let's look.
He might have. I just don't remember.
What did Mamdani say about Yahoo during his campaign?
What model and motor are you using?
Oh, boy.
Google. Mamdani backs off pledge to arrest Netanyahu citing
No, you gotta go before.
BBC. Well, I know, yeah, but maybe the BBC should have something in here about his pledge, right? All right, New York City mayor who previously pledged to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he visited the city now says he does not have the authority to do so. So
Yes,
the
we know that.
BBC is reporting that they pledged it.
And so he is updating the people who he owes a responsibility to with an update on his priors and an update on what's going to happen. So it's a reasonable statement to make.
Okay. So he vowed to back Espaillat, I guess, and now he decided to endorse the Chevalier, or whatever person instead, after he was originally going to back the other person. This was a drama thing that came up over the endorsement thing. What?
Can I get a link?
Oh, it's in chat. It's not that big of a deal.
You brought it up.
Yeah, I did, but it was part of I don't think that if he's going to make statements about arresting Netanyahu, then he can make statements about supporting Ukraine. If your answer is just going to be, well, he brought this up as a campaign pledge, then I would just back this up one more and I would say, well, he shouldn't have made that campaign pledge, and he should have made a campaign pledge to say we should support Ukraine as much as we support Palestine.
And this, what is this? What is this in response to? Like,
have you ever masturbated to like special education porn where there's actual drillers?
No.
Okay, Stephen, can we tone it down there?
I was just asking.
Can you respond to his question?
Sometimes I like to drool on myself when I'm masturbating because I can like lubricate myself and like have like the special ed experience at the same time.
He asked you a question. Please respond.
I'm sorry. What was the question again?
What was that? What
you do the weirdest like English interrogation, like basic language stuff as soon as like you're asked a very obvious question, and it's just like so fucking retarded. I don't understand. Yeah.
Please re-ask your question, Sherveen.
I don't remember.
And it wasn't important.
My question was it not reasonable for him to endorse Ukraine and to say that we should support Ukraine as much as the Palestinians? And then you've switched from what we're asking about is morally, what would we prescribe him to do? What ought he do? But as soon as you don't like the moral prescription, you switch to, well, would it have made political sense at the time to do that particular thing?
When did I say it was moral? That wasn't a moral question. That was a practical question. That was not a moral question. Do you think?
I'm sorry, it was a normative
talking about
question.
Ukraine? No,
normative question.
Morally, he can do it. Morally, he can do it. Stephen, morally, I'd be fine with him doing it. It was a practical question. What would it look like? I asked you what it would look like.
No, we weren't asking what it would look like. You asked me what is the
I asked
statement
you
that he
that
should
question.
make. What is the statement he should make? And I told you that's the statement that I believe he should make.
Hold on. Okay. When I asked that question, what I meant is, what should it look like? When I asked what should it look like, I meant practically, because what is expected of him, what is a normal statement for him to make, what's in his scope? So give me an example that makes sense.
I don't know. On the holiday of the fucking Eastern Europe, he should come out and say, we should support Ukraine as much as we support the Palestinian, because an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere or some bullshit. Even throw an MLK quote in there.
Okay. I would be fine with him doing that.
Okay. Well, he won't.
And that means that you don't like him.
You asked me for an example of the kind of statement that he could make. And I gave you an example of a kind of statement that he could make. To show that he's exercising some control over the more radical aspects of the people that I'm worried about him courting, because I believe them to be subversive elements of the Democratic Party. And that would demonstrate some level of control and not a level of just inviting subversive forces into the party that are going to destroy the party from within.
So you are now looking to him to enforce a silence is complicity.
So hold on. So you think that silence is complicit? Hold on. When you say complicit, what do you mean by complicit?
The trap?
Let's answer the question.
Well, when you say, hold on, when you say trap, do you think that we ought to be trapping each other in the conversation? And if we're not trapping,
this is him mocking me? Okay.
Can you trap with silence? And if you trap with silence, are you complicit in trapping? Why are you laughing at my question?
I don't know. I'm enjoying talking to you. I like the intellectual direction we're headed in.
Are you going to answer his question?
Could you ask it again?
I don't remember it.
Then it wasn't important.
So going back to Mamdani here, I mean, so again, he gets into office. He has been collaborating with a lot of individuals across the aisle or within the Democratic Party, across the liberal portion of the spectrum. He is being extraordinarily pragmatic and, kind of, with the bus stuff, for example, he knows he can't change the fares, so he's, kind of increased routes. He has done stuff to help people get licenses and loans for small businesses and bodegas and things of that nature. Childcare, he's getting through in phases with Hochul. He's showing a very practical politics. Now, when he brings other people in, I think there's a sense to which, again, groups within the party are always going to seek to change the nature of the coalition, right? And so
I think it's also important to recognize that like coalition can be a coalition of tons of different things. Like coalition could be political parties. Coalitions could be like baskets of fruit, or a coalition could be like a coalition style government. And then for government, there are different styles of government as well. Like monarchies are technically as a style of government. Feudalism, I guess, is more of an economic thing. And economics is also a major you could have in college, right?
Hello?
Is he done with his tantrum?
I don't know why you're uttering meaningless statements like, what am I going to say to you when you say there's a coalition and people can be brought into the coalition? So should the rape dems be brought into the coalition?
You didn't let me finish my statement.
Okay. I'm almost certainly going to be asking exactly that question when you're done. But I look forward to you on the fly trying to navigate out of me asking that question as you try to think of a way to rephrase your question, because that's exactly what you were implying. But go ahead.
Go ahead, Sherveen.
Okay. So I think in building that, there are certain portions that we do or don't know that he would agree with, and some of this has to do with what he believes will happen next, right? So I don't know that, for example, by the way, if someone could send me a link about this person's stance on NATO, I can't quite triangulate from the few results I've seen. I don't think he thinks this person is going to result in the end of NATO, and I don't have signal that he wants the end of NATO. And so when he's building this coalition, does he agree with every statement this person has made? Does he know this person, is he asking questions behind the scenes? There are lots of things that go into an endorsement, I think.
Indubitably.
And so, do you not want to talk anymore?
I'm agreeing with you. Go ahead.
Okay. And so, ultimately, if I see enough signal that he's actually endorsing enough people who have the same exact pattern, for example, 5 people who are going to be sent to the actual National Congress that would all vote for the destruction of NATO, I would very much agree with you. I don't see that yet. Now, again,
how many people did he? Was it just 3, or was it more, or was it 5? How many people?
But do all of them support the destruction of NATO?
How many did he endorse for Congress in New York?
If you guys are, I could have done this already. Let me ask an AI that's actually good. Hold on. Donnie's endorsements.
Was it 5 and he was 5 for 5?
I thought it was 5, but I feel like I've heard 3 for the Congress congressional race.
It might be 3, and I might be thinking AOC's 5 for 5. Come on. Go.
Hold on, we're asking our robots.
This is going to take like 4 to 7 minutes, but it's going to be really good.
Oh, don't worry. Grok thinks so much faster. I'm about to outdo you with
I'm
Elon
getting
Musk.
Gemini going.
No, thank you. No.
1 second. I got Gemini Pro.
It's not going to be good.
$7
minutes? Jeez, what is that? They're outsourcing that to a human. That's a human that's typing that 100%.
That's an AI, actually Indian. All right,
what do we care about? We care about
congressional endorsements included Brad Lander, Darializa Avilia Chevalier, and Claire Valdez. How many won? All 3 won.
And
2026.
Let's decide what we care about understanding. So NATO and their stance on NATO, Ukraine, Russia, and their stance on Ukraine, Russia. Anything else we want to check on in terms of?
Was that part of the question?
Huh?
Wasn't he just wondering who won and how many won?
Oh, but I was making a point that if they have a collective opinion, for example, all of them were against NATO, then I would begin to worry. But I don't see that, right? So again, I think when you build a coalition like this, when you're a politician building a coalition, you're making just like we've talked about on the left side, you're picking based on what you think someone's scope is and what you think their overall impact is. And so you're going to make different choices based on that.
Both Valdez and Chevalier ran as explicitly DSA candidates. The DSA takes a strict, formal anti-imperialist stance that calls for the USA to withdraw from NATO and advocates for the eventual dissolution of the alliance, viewing it as a tool of...
Brad Lander does?
No. That's Valdez
DSA,
and
this is why this is not
Chevier.
useful.
Lander represents a slightly different lane on the progressive left. While heavily critical of standard U.S. foreign policy, Lander has traditionally operated closer to the mainstream progressive leaders like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. He wants to cut Pentagon. He does not share the strict anti-NATO abolitionist stance of the DSA.
Ooh, there we go.
So, only 2 out of 3 want to get rid of NATO.
And do the two actually want to do that? Because your statement said that the DSA has that stance. Do they have that stance?
DSA stance is cucked as fuck.
While neither candidate made dismantling NATO a cornerstone of their individual platforms, focusing instead on domestic issues and calls for ceasefires abroad, their alignment with the DSA's national foreign policy program indicates deep skepticism towards NATO expansion and U.S. foreign military entanglements.
Right. So I'd want to see statements again. All of this would give a lot of credence to the idea that he is promoting a thing that I think will actually
these
happen.
statements in a row are bad enough for me. So this is just from his campaign site. This is Brad Lander for Congress.com/issues. I'm just borrowing from the middle of this paragraph of bridges, not bombs. He said he's had the courage. Oh, wait. Well, I'll just read this whole paragraph. New Yorkers' hard-earned tax dollars should not be going to fund forever wars and human rights violations. Okay. Whether by foreign leaders or American ones, Brad believes we need a foreign policy that emphasizes global peacemaking over militarism. Okay. That defends human rights and international norms, and that defeats authoritarianism globally through alliances that address inequality and poverty. Okay. He's had the courage to stand up for these beliefs throughout his life, for freedom, for Soviet Jewry against the war in Iraq, and to stop Israel's occupation of Palestinian territory and the destruction of Gaza. Brad knows that Israelis will only be safe and free when Palestinians are free and safe, and vice versa. Brad will fight to rebuild U.S. aid, save lives, and protect civilians from Ukraine to Sudan to Venezuela. He will push back against an imperial presidency, whichever party is in power, and restore Congress's constitutional role to set foreign policy, and help craft a new democratic foreign policy that does better to build bridges at home and abroad. I would consider that to be a non-stance or a bad stance for the Ukraine stuff.
If you don't say that you're pro-NATO, you're fucking retarded.
Hold on. First of all, who was that?
Brad Lander.
Brad.
Didn't it literally... What's the... which subpages? Is this issues?
Yeah, bridges, not bombs.
Brad will fight to rebuild U.S. aid, protect civilians from Ukraine to Sudan to Gaza. What's your problem with this?
He has a lot of strong positions about not just protecting Palestinian civilians, not just protecting Palestine from harm, but that Palestinian sovereignty needs to be respected. But the statements, and there's multiple statements in here about Palestinians. There's more down the page as well. But for Ukrainian, he's just like, oh, I guess protect the civilians. It's a non-statement. That's a nothing. That's a nothing burger.
Okay.
Holy shit! This kind of looks like Texas.
Let's call it a Dan burger.
I think it's weird to have a problem with this.
I know. You don't really, but it's like it politically benefits you right now. But my position is incredibly obvious.
What do you mean politically benefits me? Well, how do I benefit?
Because it's the side of the argument is the side you're representing right now.
Why do you think it's weird that he has a problem with it? Let's get in.
Because it's very obvious that the position here is that, like, if I were to come out and I were to say, we need to reduce the amount of civilian deaths, we need peace for Palestine. Nobody says that. We need justice for Palestine. We need to end the occupation. End the occupation? If they were to say we need to end the occupation of Ukraine, that's it. I'd say that's equivalent. Nice. They don't say that, though. They just say we need to protect civilian lives because they would say that all Ukrainians need to submit themselves to Russian genitalia inspections and give up all the fucking territory that Russia has. That's their position. Peace is important when it comes to Ukraine because it was the U.S.'s fault. But when it comes to Palestine, ending the occupation and military action is the important thing there, or as much pressure as possible to get the unjust situation of the Palestinians resolved.
No Jews, no news.
So I think that Brad
Nothing
Lander,
you say is going to change my opinion on this. I'm just letting you know, but you can argue it if you want. Go ahead.
Come on, Steve, hear him out.
Well, it's going to be a ton of equivocation, and I don't think he's not even going to state an opinion. Do you think that what I just said has any merit? That it's very strange to talk about ending the occupation of Ukraine, but only speaking to justice for civilians in Ukraine? I'm sorry, to ending the occupation in Palestine, but only speaking about justice for civilians or protecting civilians in Ukraine. One of these statements you recognize is much stronger than the other, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that's all I'm saying. Okay.
Okay, maybe you can change your mind. Let's hear him out. Go ahead, Sherveen.
I think in a lot of your expression of not liking the statement is a judgment of, and I'm not yet judging the judgment, so let's go one step at a time, of the people who find a lot more reason to speak out, including Bradlander, about Israel-Palestine versus Ukraine-Russia. There's two things that I'd say to that. The first is, I generally think this is a bad argument. This statement on this site, generally speaking, doesn't represent a movement of the party to destroy NATO whatsoever. And I've listened to a lot of Bradlander. I don't think he'd at all do that. It literally says that he wants to rebuild U.S. aid. So I think you generally have a bad example here. Bradlander does not represent a movement to some destruction of the liberal left. The second portion is, and you say this all the time, we've talked about it a little bit in the past, but like you don't believe that people actually care about Israel-Palestine.
You're about to hear a whole bunch of description, by the way, for Bradlander. That's what he's about to do. He's about to describe the political environment, and he's about to say what statements it would make the most sense for Bradlander to make in order to win an election. And there's going to be no prescriptive statement here. It's always descriptions, and what's the least they can get away with. But go ahead.
And I've described to you in the past that I think that there's a imperfect expression in a lot of cases, whether it's liberals, whether it's people on the right, of what people believe. I do believe that people care, whether they should or shouldn't, more about Israel-Palestine. And I didn't think they actually care. I know in a lot of the cases you say something like, oh, they don't actually care about this. This is just a way to advance their political agenda. I believe that's true of some politicians or some people in the media. So, for example, that's true of probably Hasan. I don't think that's true of Bradlander. I don't think that's true of probably all members of the DSA.
Okay,
I think
why
a lot of them.
It's true? Do you have proof?
Yeah. Well, I have as much proof as believing it's not true, which is, I think the reason Stephen believes it's not true is because he thinks he's not seeing like a type of action. And by the way, I might be wrong, so you can tell me why. A type of action that lines up with that much care. Whereas I believe people right now are stressed in different directions, and their empathy for what is a very visible thing that's happening in Israel-Palestine, where the civilian nature of the combatants, or the civilian appearance of the combatants, actually does draw a lot of empathy. I believe people actually care about this issue. That doesn't mean, by the way, that I believe they're fully educated about the issue. That doesn't mean I believe all of their conclusions are correct about the issue. But when I talk to people, when I hear other normal voters all the way to, let's call it our standard politicians, talk about this, I do think it elicits something very real in people, that this is happening and that they believe that there's some version of speaking out that is different than the Ukraine-Russia version, because they believe we have more agency in our relationship with Israel. I don't think it has to be complicated, right? And so there might be a bunch of assumptions they have that are incorrect, or where this belief comes from might be complex or confusing. But I think they actually care. And so when you combine that with the timing of an election and kind of the ability for us to impact the funding of a war or whatever else in our relationship with Israel versus what's going on with Ukraine and Russia, I think it's reasonable for Brad to have the statement as it's laid out on the site. But broadly
I just want to
speaking,
say that a random person, like a random voter, I understand what you're saying for. They might feel like they have more agency in protesting, et cetera, around Israel. But a politician should know that they have as much agency as they do with Israel as they would with Ukraine.
Well, they don't, depending on the politician. They don't, depending on the politician. So Bradlander does not have as much agency whatsoever.
Why?
When it comes,
unless they're on a committee.
Right. So what is Bradlander going to do about Ukraine and Russia?
Vote to send weapons to Ukraine.
Do you think he wouldn't vote to send weapons to Ukraine?
I'm not sure.
I think he would, and I think his statement
isn't that part of the problem that we aren't sure?
Yeah, that is the problem. That's the difference.
Look, if you guys showed me a place where he was asked and he didn't actually answer, I'm happy to critique him for that.
We know how he feels about Israel,
you shouldn't have to.
Right?
Yeah, and he had a chance to write it right here.
We know how. We know he would vote to not send weapons to Israel. Why don't we know how he'd vote about Ukraine?
He literally, I'm looking at a tweet from February where he's talking about the prayer of the brave people of Ukraine and their fierce courage and resilience in the face of brutal Russian aggression as a beacon for the world in these dark times. The illegal war resulting from Russia's invasion has gone on for 4 years now, 4 years of unspeakable bloodshed of the hands of Vladimir Putin. This is why it's so essential to build and preserve multilateral action, not Trump's mad burn down our alliances approach. It takes a broad coalition to preserve freedom against autocrats. We must remain resolute in our solidarity with Ukraine. Let there be just and lasting peace. Fuck you both.
Do you think that? Do you think that?
Fucking minds.
Do you think that the United States of America?
I put it in chat.
Do you think the United States of America is an explicitly Christian country? Were we founded with Christianity as like a part of like the framework of our Constitution?
No.
Why not? Why don't you think that?
If you look at a lot of founding documents that I've read, especially when the whole there's like a few months ago, the right decided to take an approach with the debates on X about birthright citizenship. A lot of the founding documents talk about a separation from religion or a very careful isolation from religion. You can look at a lot of the documents.
Sure. And you know what? That argument is a good one, and it's even more sophisticated than the argument I'm going to make. But I would make another argument. The Constitution. There were a lot of people that debated on how to write that. And there's a lot of writings, like you said it yourself. There's peripheral writings. You've got Federalist Papers. You've got all sorts of writings, and they didn't put that in the Constitution. Why would they not? If they wanted the United States of America, I ask every Nazi, if they wanted the U.S. of A. to be a Christian nation, why the fuck wouldn't they put that anywhere in the Constitution?
So I think there's
so when I look at this
reason.
tweet, when I look at this tweet and I see cuck language like preserve multilateral action takes a broad coalition to preserve freedom, I don't see a single policy point anywhere in here. Do you?
He's not in Congress yet. This is February of 2026.
Was he in Congress when he said we should stop sending bombs to Israel? That's a policy position. Do you acknowledge that? Hold on. Do you acknowledge
they're equivalent? They're equivalent.
Okay, you're wrong. You're just wrong.
If all he said was we should stop sending bombs, like it's equivalent to we should stand resolute and do everything we can for a country. But let's assume
if somebody said we should take multilateral action for Palestine and Israel, you think the DSA members would accept that position?
I don't think that he's saying we shouldn't take all sorts of action in this tweet. He's not limiting the action. He's literally showing his full-throated support. Okay. And again, I want to point to the broader thing there. I think that putting proactively longer paragraphs about Israel-Palestine is a reaction to what New Yorkers want, whether you like it or not, whether you believe them or not. He's responding to the polity, and he's right about this. Believes
your description. You're in the description world again. I don't care. I don't know why you're in this. Why you do this? This is the political reality. He has to do this. If you're going to argue that, then why support any politician ever? They're just responding to the polity. I guess politicians can't take proactive positions on literally anything.
Is it not useful? Why isn't it useful as a description of why that's on there?
It's not useful because I'm asking what a politician should have done, and you're responding with, this is the reality. 70% of them are rapists, so of course you have to support the rape dems. That's what you keep giving me this argument. You keep saying like this is where the polity is. I'm not asking. I'm saying why couldn't he have? He could have a position on his site that said we should support Ukraine.
I'm explaining to you why it's acceptable for him not to have.
It's not acceptable to me not to have. That's a line too far. I think that should be an easy thing. And if you're going to court that opinion,
you've made up that mind in hindsight.
That's fine. Let's say that all of what you're saying is true, and let's say that on the next ballot, let's say now what the polity wants is withdrawal from NATO. Why wouldn't he put the exact same thing then and say, well, I think that we should reconsider our NATO alliance position?
I wouldn't have been opposed to him doing that. I'm not surprised though that he didn't begin because of the salience of the issues.
So if that was the case, if it were to come up again, then he would be okay with us maybe withdrawing from NATO. That's the whole point. If you're using
what? Why do you believe that?
Because I would just use all the arguments you're using now. Maybe he thinks
he has interviews where he talks in the opposite.
No, stop using. Why are you switching to some factual? Like I'm saying that if in the future it's more politically palatable for him to take an anti-NATO stance, especially being a DSA member.
Whoa, I was describing why it's on the site, not why he has a stance.
Oh my god. Okay, good troll.
Wait,
I'm taking a deep breath. It's okay.
Why is that a troll?
I'm trolling, or you're trolling. That's okay.
Why was that a troll?
I don't know. It might be subconscious trolling.
I thought I was reacting to why that was on the site, given that we can both see
it wasn't.
No,
that wasn't, because that would be a retarded question that anybody in my chat could answer. I don't know why you would ever think I would ask such a retarded fucking question. Why is this position on his site? Because he thinks it's the most politically popular position to get him elected where he's running. What a retarded fuck. Why would you even ask that question? That's like saying, why did you decide to eat? Why did you decide to eat vegan pizza? Because I was hungry.
Because you're trying to impeach his view on potentially having a contra NATO, contra Ukraine perspective.
I think his position on
so
Ukraine
that's why
is
I thought you asked.
That's why. Hold on. That's why I courting members into our party.
That's why
have a
I
bad
thought you
asked
the question. That's why I thought you had asked that question.
Okay.
Wasn't trolling.
Based.
Well,
fuck you, Mooden. Fix your Discord overlay. Wait, what's wrong?
it's not on screen.
Is the site broken?
Shrugs.
There you go.
Sherveen, are you here?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Oh, sorry.
You guys can talk or whatever. I'm trying to navigate this in a way where he doesn't flip his shit.
I'm just so emotional and triggered.
I don't know. I'm coming here having an honest conversation, and you're telling me that I'm trolling you. If you weren't asking me about why he has one issue about Ukraine on, but he still might have a stance on Ukraine that you and I both like, my bad that I misread your question. But that is a reasonable question for you to ask. Because, by the way, hold on, it is reasonable for you to say, okay, I do wish my politician would have had more of an equal position on his campaign sites. And I was exploring why that might not be, while he still might have the stances we like.
I don't care why it might not be. Just like I wouldn't care why somebody's a rape dem. I just wouldn't support them.
I don't think those are the same thing. But I hear you.
Why would you compare two things that are the same thing? You would just say the same word twice. I'm comparing them to show you that both of them are a step too far, and I don't really care what the rationalization is for it. There might be a good reason why somebody supports the rape dems,
I don't think you generally have looked at websites of people you have liked to see whether this equivalence exists. Like and I don't know why we would have this this feels artificial.
You don't think I've ever looked at the policies that people have to figure out if I would support them or not?
To very specifically see whether or not the Ukraine part is as long, only to make fun of them. I don't think you've used it to actually say, okay, now this guy is so DSA that I can't vote for him.
Well, the fact that they're already in the DSA already raises the suspicion. So then, of course, I'm going to be...
Suspicion is fine.
Okay, so then if I'm more suspicious, I'm going to do more investigation.
Brad in the DSA or in the dems? I don't
know, but he had the Mamdani endorsement. That's enough for me. If he's not in the DSA, that's even worse. Then why is Mamdani endorsing non-DSA people who are weak on Ukraine?
He is part of the DSA.
I'm just curious, real quick, if we were to go back through this conversation, if we were to spend 3 hours and we were to go back through this entire conversation, the way that you talk about me, or the way that you talk about, it might have just been me.
Commander.
If the way that you talk about me, and then you compare that to the way that you talked about the college dems, or the way that you talk about Mamdani and this Brad Lander guy, are you cognizant of the fact that you ascribe high levels of agency to me and basically no level of agency to people like Mamdani or Lander? That when you describe...
What do you think I'm going to say to that? Stephen, what do you think I'm going to say to that? And really
I actually don't know. I don't ask questions that I know the answers to like you. I don't know. What would you say to that? That's why I asked you. That's why I said if we were to go back through... Why do you feel that way? First of all, do you feel that way? Do you feel like you ascribe way more agency to me as an individual than you do to any of these other political figures?
I think that I have access to you. I'm talking to you because I think your political project is worthy, that I agree with most of it. And so when you and I talk and I go, hey, you should do or don't do this thing with the college dems, it's because I'm going, hey, if he actually rejects a college dems invite, I think that's bad for the world. So I want to give him some perspective around maybe don't go so harsh on them so they don't hear this in the way that it sounds. And yes, it's optics, whatever. But that's why I say it the way. So when I prescribe these things to you, it's not because I think you have more or less agency. It's because you and I are the ones talking. If I could talk to Mamdani, I'd tell him don't do, other than the very limited 1 year rent freeze, don't do any rent freeze after that. I'm not sure the grocery stores are going to work. Maybe try something different on the buses, but by the way, great on childcare. So I'm not talking to Mamdani. I'm talking to you. And so I'm making suggestions about what I think how the world is going to react to you. Do you understand now why I give you a little more agency in the conversation where you and I are talking?
No, it was a completely and totally meaningless answer. And it doesn't even make any sense. Politicians, it literally shares the root with the word politics, which is literally the practice of policies, which is the things that our government forces us to do. So we're voting for people and supporting people who are not only, they're commanding us in ways to act. So the idea that you wouldn't have any opinion about their agency, it just blows my mind. I don't that's just the craziest answer in the world.
Hold on. Did I say that I don't have an opinion about their agency? I told you why you use the word prescriptions, why I'm giving you more prescriptions around your agency. It's because you and I are the ones talking. I didn't prescribe them less. If you and I are talking, I'm going to make suggestions or prescriptions because you might act differently. They're not in the room. Does that make more sense?
No.
Really, or am I confused?
No, they're complete non-answers. It's kind of blowing my mind. But
Could you re-ask?
what? My question is: do you when you talk about people like Mamdani, or when you talk about Lander,
Yeah.
you talk as though these people have no agency. Every action they do is contingent upon the environment around them. They can't steer the ship. They can only act one way. I don't know what the point of that conversation is. I can analyze why people are doing the things they're doing. What we're asking is what should they do, or what would they do that would be more in line with their beliefs? So, for instance, you asked me the question of what kind of a statement do you think Mamdani should make? And then I said a statement on Ukraine. And then you gave me a description of the current political reality as though that was sufficient to say why he wouldn't make the statement. That's a nonsense response. Like, I think that we should not have slaves in the United States. And then your response is, well, slavery is legal in the U.S., though. You're not engaging on the same level with the conversation at all. It's just it's the craziest, weirdest mindfuck pivot.
So I don't understand why those are the same thing. I'll describe it to you, right? So when we talk about, for example, how you would say something about the college dems, it's because you're actively talking about the college dems. When we talked about the Mamdani example, the reason that I found that Ukraine statement, I said I start to describe the world as you put it, it's because that statement to me would be odd for him to make out of nowhere. It doesn't mean that he has no agency. It does mean, though, when I asked you that question, the reason I wanted
why would it be
an example,
odd?
because he doesn't make, generally speaking, other than because, again, this, I know you don't like it, but it's this campaign promise boomerang.
Why couldn't he have made a campaign promise to have a strong statement on Ukraine? Wouldn't that be an example of him exercising his political power?
I agree with you. Yes, you can have that opinion, and then I'd agree with you. But again, I'd go now you're finding that in hindsight.
What do you mean?
Like,
in
you didn't
hindsight?
have a problem with him not bringing. You didn't have a problem with him not bringing up Ukraine before.
Well,
now
I mean, I
do.
kind of do. I would, but you asked me, what could he have said differently? Mamdani is
yes,
not.
but I think now it wouldn't make sense. So if he had said something about Ukraine before, I would think it would also make sense. Now I think if he randomly, as the mayor of New York, tried to say something about the party and how everyone in the party has to do something, he isn't generally making those types of statements. I haven't heard him make.
Okay, just as a quick thing, okay, because like even the statement you're saying, I know you don't believe this, and you know this is not true. Did you say you lived in New York? Like,
yeah.
Every kind of person is in New York. I don't know why you're saying this. You can, as a New York mayor, you can literally get away with making a statement about literally any ethnic group or people or any religious group of people you want.
When you say getting away, I was saying it would be surprising.
It wouldn't. It wouldn't even be surprising. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me. I bet he's literally made statements about Ukraine. I bet if I look it up, I bet he has said that the invasion is unjust.
We're not talking about a general statement about Ukraine. We're talking about you saying that he has to come out and say everyone in the party needs to support Ukraine as much as they support Palestine.
If he can make a statement about Ukraine, and if he can make a statement about Palestine, he can make a statement saying you should support Ukraine as much as you support Palestine.
He's physically capable of making that statement.
And he ought to, morally and ethically, and in line with at least my political views, he should. He ought to.
Sure.
But the fact that he doesn't tells me something about where his political priorities are. And those political priorities
Who else has made that statement in the past few months?
I don't know.
No one. No one's come out and said every Democrat should be...
You don't think there are any congressmen on the Democratic side right now who are big supporters of Ukraine or
No, that's not the question. Have they come out with a statement?
Most of them don't need to because they're not anti-NATO or anti-U.S. intervention anywhere like the DSA is.
That's my answer to you as to why it's odd for him to make that form of statement. If you're saying...
Why would there be the same expectation for somebody who's not known for being anti-NATO to make a pro-NATO statement? That's not the same thing. It's not the same comparison at all.
Well, one, because there's no anti-NATO vote right now, and there's especially not amongst the Democratic Party. Two, there's no active election where these two views...
is an anti-NATO group, but okay.
I mean, apparently, we just heard about Brad Lander. There are factions within DSA that do not support...
Brad Lander does not... I don't see anywhere where Brad Lander supports NATO. I didn't see that anywhere in his thing. Did you?
In the statement that you and I read? No, but the tweet... That one was a tweet.
Okay, a little suspicious to have nothing about supporting NATO.
We don't know that it's nothing. Should we look it up?
Well, I asked Grok and he could find nothing, so I'm assuming Grok didn't lie to me.
Can you find...
How's the moderating going?
I'm moderating your mom
appealing
right
to AI again?
Yep.
Can I just say I hate the appeal to AI?
True.
I mean, it's just a shortcut to research.
That's what they all say.
I'll Google search at the same time, so maybe I'll find it first.
He's basically, he just hasn't made, he just says like I want peace, I want peace, I want peace, and not the endless militarism. This is usually a dog whistle for an anti-NATO position.
I don't know that it's usually a dog whistle. I don't know that a lot of people have had.
Of course, there are no fucking dog whistles when it comes to these people. I know. Okay.
I didn't say there were no. I said
there are none. There are none. There are none. There are none. It's just, it's
if
like
you're
this is the
a
most
local
obvious. Like
local
politician.
Dude, Steven, he's a comptroller. He was a comptroller. He hasn't had necessarily the medium to talk about this. Now he might because he's going to Congress. But up until now, he's a local politician.
He's not. He's running for Congress. That's a national level office. Why would you only expect now after he's elected you make statements on how do you know who to vote for?
What?
Why are you saying you can't make policy statements or positions?
I didn't say you can't. I'm saying that might be the reason for the absence of a statement about NATO.
Okay.
Because he's not been asked about it.
Then he didn't find it important enough to make a comment on.
Right, but if he's not asked...
Brad?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's saying
Why did he not tweet since 2022 about it all?
Well, probably because Elon bought Twitter.
Oh, so he just... Okay, that's smart.
Like, if the DSA is an anti-NATO institution, and if he's a DSA party member, and there's nothing supporting NATO in any of his statements, why wouldn't I just assume he's probably anti-NATO?
I don't think that's unreasonable.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
But
say no. That is likely.
That would
be no. Any reasonable person would assume that. I say any reasonable person would assume that.
Well, a second ago, you read his campaign page where it said he wants to rebuild the USAID, and you also told me
what does
before
USAID have to do with NATO?
Because that's another global activity we do that he is contra to the DSA.
Oh my fucking
stance
God.
on, according to what you told me. Do you not think USAID and NATO has a high correlation of support?
I don't know if the DSA is an avowedly anti-USAID organization. I'm not sure. But if what you're saying,
when you said that, that's what I thought.
If what you're saying is true, though, it cuts against him even harder. Because it means that he thought that there was an important reason that he needed to state he was pro-USAID, even though the DSA is anti-USAID, but he hasn't said anything about NATO. So it would communicate even more to me that he's probably anti-NATO as well.
But I'm also, we saw his statement where he said a multilateral solution in terms of Ukraine. We keep multilateral pressure.
If I come into your apartment and I start fucking your dog, would you say we need to take a comprehensive approach on making Steven extract his dick from my cat, dog, gerbil, hamster?
I don't have a cat either, or a hamster, or a gerbil.
Okay.
Brad Landon has posted dozens, likely well over 50 to 100 individual posts / tweets about Israel, Palestine.
Based.
Since 2022 to January 2026. Okay. And he didn't post any time about Ukraine.
Oh, I thought you were saying he hasn't posted on Twitter at all.
No.
He hasn't said anything about NATO post 2022. In a 2022 investment presentation prior to the office of his office, Brad Lander's Bureau of Asset Management office described Russia's invasion of Ukraine as a battle between Putin's effort to restore Russian imperialism and the expansion of NATO leading to greater freedom and democracy. Boom, boom. 2022. From his formal position, by the way, too.
Why would that matter? You just told me that his statements as comptroller wouldn't be relevant.
No. That's why I told you he might not have received the question or had a medium to express that view. And by the way, here is the document in chat for anyone who wants it.
Why is it so important for me to make my positions, what did you say, high visibility or whatever? Legible. But for him, well, nobody asked.
I'm talking to you about what you might do for your political project.
Oh my God, I know. Okay. Prescription description. Got it.
Do you really think that wasn't fair for me to say?
No. It was nonsense.
You asked me why I'm holding some different measure over you and Brad Lander. I found him supporting NATO, and he's generally been a comptroller where he hasn't had the ability to express this. And I'm talking to you about what you might do moving forward based off of your frustrations with the world. Obviously, I'm going to tell you about the legibility of what you might say moving forward in comparison, because Brad Lander and NATO is a future topic that he's actually going to be in Congress about. We're going to see what he thinks about NATO. We don't need a legibility statement. Or, I mean, we might want it beforehand, but...
Waiting.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how to. He doesn't even believe this, so I don't know how to engage with this. I'm not sure.
What do you mean
So
I
you
don't
think he's bad
believe
faith?
this? Why is that a thing you often go to? What's the illness in your brain? I believe everything I say to you, and when I revise, I revise. But why would you think I don't believe it? Do you think I think Brad Lander is more subversive than I'm presenting? This is a genuine question, by the way.
Wait, what was your example of the NATO thing? This 231-page slide
Correct.
presentation.
Yep.
Okay.
He's the New York City comptroller. This is his office.
This isn't. This thing is a 231-page.
Will you answer my question,
This
please?
thing. Hold on, just to be clear, this is a 231 slide thing about their pension investments.
Does that make the statement any less clear?
It's not a statement on NATO or
I didn't-
Ukraine
okay,
or Russia.
When I say statement, does that make the line any less an expression of NATO that might present to you that he doesn't share a contra-NATO view?
What do you
If
think?
you wrote
I'm
it on
gonna
a
say?
napkin, you want to see more. Sure, I agree with you.
No. Hold on. Did you graduate
okay.
from college?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Okay. What was your
Washington,
major?
St. Louis. Political science with minors in public health and
You have a
computer
political science degree. If I wanted to tell you what Hobbes thought about some political theory, does he think that
I do
democracy?
think that other information would
do you
be better.
think no? Do you think that democracy is a good system of governance? And I were to quote Hobbes after he stubs his toe in his house, and he said, "Fuck this democratic bullshit. I wish I could kill every couchmaker." And I were to say, "This is a great
I'm triangulating
example."
from the available information. That's what I'm doing. I'm triangulating from the available information.
The available information
There's
on one
unfortunately no
page
other
of this
information
slide.
other than pro-Ukraine statements.
We
right,
have
which he has
implications of Russian invasion of Ukraine, geopolitical tectonic shift in European history, battle between Putin's goal of restoring Russian imperialism versus expansion of NATO, leading to greater freedom and democracy. Defending democracy is going to cost President Biden. Markets, and then how they impact the markets. This is not a
I'm not
statement
suggesting
on.
It's the greatest thing. But
No,
I
no,
don't
no.
think
It's not a
he's
statement at
otherwise had
all.
an
This is not
opportunity as
no,
the comptroller of New York City.
no.
Okay, fair
This
enough.
is not a statement on NATO or his position of NATO or anything. This is a presentation about how to manage pensioner funds, the New York City Employees Retirement System Investment Meeting, and it's a single quote from a 231 slide presentation.
Yep. Okay. So I'm just presenting the combination of the Ukraine tweets and this as something that presents at least that he's not come out in kind of the ways these other DSA members had. So when you say that you think I don't believe what I'm saying, I think this is really interesting for actual reasons. So I mean this generally. Like, do you think I think he is more subversive than I'm presenting? Or what do you mean when you think I don't believe it?
I think that the political part of this conversation has caused you to shut off a part of your brain, and you're engaging in this conversation in a way that in any other conversation you would immediately become frustrated and wonder why your opponent is asking the questions they're asking or operating in the way they're operating.
But why? To what end? Why would I be shutting off that part? Like, what's the incentive that I'm...
because we get debate brain and we get emotionally tied to positions, or we think we're correct on a thing and then we lose track of the argument or something.
But haven't I consistently had this view with you? Like, why isn't this seem to you like? And by the way, let me present it real quick.
If we had a different conversation topic and these same things came up, you wouldn't have the same positions. You would never say, if you're asking the question of what do you think Mamdani should say, that very clearly denotes a normative moral question that you're asking me. It's not a descriptive reality of what is he limited by politically. That would be how you would understand that question. Of course. You would never
say that one more time.
If you were to ask me, what do you think Donald Trump should do with regards to Iran? I would say we have to form some peace or whatever. I actually, I can't even answer that wrong because that shit is completely fucked. If you would ask me, what should Donald Trump do for Ukraine? And I were to say, I think that we should support Ukraine 100%. It should be unquestionable. We should have a close alliance with Zelensky. We should rebuild our relationship with our partners in Europe. Your reply to me, when you ask that question of what should Trump do, what you're asking me, what everybody's going to understand the question to be is, you're asking me a normative question of what ought Donald Trump do that you would agree with on a moral level. If you were to respond to the statement that I just gave, my answer, and you were to say, well, Trump can't really do that because it would be really unpopular with the coalition of voters he has, I would scratch my head because it would just be such a weird way. What are you asking me? Are you just asking me what do I think is like the most politically feasible or possible thing for him to do? Because that's a totally different question. That's also a very boring question, and neither of us actually really even care to explore it.
Well, Stephen, I think if this is a flaw in kind of the sort of conversation we're having or the conversations you prefer to have, I think what I am doing is I'm holding the idea of statements being a thing here. In other words, when I respond that way, it's because I thought we were speaking on, like, hey, where is it appropriate to express this thing and how far can we use expressions and then endorsements of people who have expressions. So I agree with you that if there's an ought question, but then with an ought question, I'd stop at the ought, right? I'd be like, oh, he ought to say more, because then there's a question of format, right? I thought you were asking, or I thought you were challenging that Mamdani doesn't use format, which is a signal of what he believes.
I think
so
he does.
If you don't think those, right? But if you don't, that's why I was answering something though, because in that case, I think the ought and the format are different.
I guess.
By the way,
when you ask me the question,
and by
of
the way,
like,
hold on, sorry,
well,
sorry. This is useful. This is useful.
When you ask me the question of like, if I say I don't think Mamdani is going to represent my values strong enough, so this is why I don't trust him or whatever, and you're like, well, give me an example of a statement that Mamdani should make. In my mind, what you're asking me is, what could Mamdani say that would signal to you that he actually would defend the values that you think are important? That's the question. And then when I say, well, I think he should take a stronger position in Ukraine. And then when you retreat to, well, that would be unpopular with his base, you're just satisfying.
I didn't say that. I said that this was a boomerang on a campaign promise.
Okay, then recurse it to the campaign promise. Why didn't he make a campaign promise on Ukraine? The exact same question still applies.
Someone DM'd me on Discord in 2025. I didn't even know this. He said that he would also arrest Vladimir Putin if he visited New York under the same accordance with the ICC.
Doesn't matter.
Why doesn't it matter?
Because it's not. It doesn't. Because these are virtue signal positions. They don't matter.
Oh! You don't believe what you're saying. Wow.
I don't care if he thinks that we should.
Wow.
Go ahead and finish your shit, and then I can explain why this is
Thank
completely
you so much
disanalogous.
To the chatter. Go ahead.
The position is not that the DSA supports Russia. It's that the DSA supports the destruction of the American empire. So Mamdani and every other DSA member, and they all do, by the way, but you pretend not to hear dog whistles, all of them condemn Russia's illegal invasion in Ukraine. Ask any Ukrainian.
So
they all do that.
believe...
But no, don't. I'm telling you very explicitly. Okay, all of them will say things like, yeah, Russia definitely shouldn't have invaded Ukraine. However, they'll blame American imperialism and they'll blame NATO, and they don't think that we should be involved at all. And that's why they always signal to, we need to do our best to do peacekeeping. We need to use a multilateral approach. We need to encourage both sides to reach peace. They use much stronger language, though, when it comes to Israel-Palestine. We need to end the occupation. We need to force Israel to negotiate a fair and just, but we need to destroy the country of Israel. It has to be a one state, completely changed. There's a much stronger statement with regards to Israel. So if you tell me, oh, he says he's going to arrest Putin,
Israel-Palestine situation is a legitimately more dramatic civilian event in comparison to Ukraine-Russia. You can have your
What do you mean? I don't even think that's true. Haven't more people died by the result of the Ukraine-Russia shit?
First of all, I don't think so, but
But
even it's true that situation Israel-Palestine is historic.
I just got a brain blast to MrMouton, and you coming in here and criticizing MrMouton, who is just getting into politics. The fact that you don't even know how many people have died in Gaza, doesn't that say something about your coverage? And you think that more people have died?
No, hold on. Just one correction. Stephen, just to be clear, I didn't make fun of MrMouton for that. I made fun of you because of how you speak about that issue. So I just want to be clear. Lucas did absolutely nothing wrong in that situation.
Okay.
So wait, do you know the numbers?
It's like in the hundreds of thousands.
What are the numbers in each conflict?
The last I heard was 500,000 Russian casualties. I don't know how many of those are deaths or not, but the numbers get reported differently on both sides. But I'm pretty sure for like the invasion and like the fucking rape and pillage of Mariupol and shit, for each of these individual huge cities, it's like in the tens of thousands sometimes.
Yeah, these numbers look like they have a range, but the range is larger. Hold on, chill. The range is larger. The range is larger. I literally.
I cummed all over. I cummed.
Chill. I literally said.
Oh, I cummed. No.
Oh my god.
My bad. Go ahead.
You coming?
I cummed. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't need to announce
done?
I was coming. Yes, I'm done. Coming.
It does look like that range is going to wind up larger no matter what in terms of the accuracy of the statistics.
I don't know if this. I'm being genuine here, and I'm not trying to sound like an insult because peace causes problem. I don't know if this is an autistic thing or whatever, but I'm just telling you, and because I'm correct here, and it's a genuine encouragement or whatever. When you make a statement and you appear to hedge before to somebody else what appears to be an absolutely crystal clear moral position, it makes it seem like you completely disagree with that moral position. I don't know if you're aware of this. When I get triggered in the conversation, it's because I hear you doing that a lot. Like you just did it there. You're like,
say it again.
But you said by the end of the war, based on the ranges, it's probably going to be.
Not by the end of the war. By the
I
end
don't
of
give a
the
fuck, bro. It doesn't matter.
Range.
By the estimates of the range, it probably looks like there's going to be. It's undeniable. It's not even close. And the reason why I made the dog fucking comment in your apartment is because if I were to say, if I walk into your apartment and I start fucking your dog, what are you going to do? Your answer would be, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. I'm going to attack you. I might kill you. You're raping my dog. What the fuck? But when you make statements like, if you came in and started raping my dog, I mean, I would definitely be very upset. Yeah, we would have I might even attack you for that. I might actually hit you for that. People would look at you and they think, are you fucking crazy? What do you mean you might? And you hedge before statements that I consider to be no-brainers, and that type of hedging is the thing that I'm worried about with moderate Dems, let alone like the Mamdanis. That's my big thing. But I don't know if that's even intentional on your end or what, or if it's betraying your internal thought process. Like it's actually communicating to me that you don't know, and maybe it is not a big deal or a huge deal, or the numbers are or aren't a certain thing, or maybe you're just not aware that the hedging in that way is. I don't know. That's
so. What it represented at the time, but I'm also reading more stats because I'm reacting in real time and trying to be completely transparent, is the Google overview, and this is why I don't like using Google, said 100,000 to 1.2 million was the range from some agency about the conflict, which, by the way, I think that result is massively undercounted based on these other, but I'm trying to figure it out. And so when I said that, the reason is because the other range on Israel-Palestine is something in the 100 to 200,000. In other words...
No, it's not.
Is it not?
Not even close. I don't even know if we're over 75,000 yet. And that's according to Hamas, to the Gaza and Health Ministry.
So let me bring an understanding here. We're using estimates. I generally look at these numbers, broadly speaking, skeptically on all sides. So the reason I hedged there is because I actually thought in the moment, whether or not I'm wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong about it, that they might be within range of each other. But then I said, actually, though, it looks like that number is going to wind up being larger because the top end of the Russia range that I saw was much larger. Does that give you a little bit of a sense as to my brain?
Okay.
Does that change your perspective at all?
No. On a macro conversation where we're talking about support for NATO and support for Ukraine, when you appear to be hedging or questioning about whether or not more people have died in the Russian-Ukraine conflict versus Israel-Gaza, it just seems to further the idea that we're very right.
I was looking at a live
skeptical.
number that apparently was incorrect and describing to you. Why are you so upset by that? Why does that upset you so much?
I'm not upset. I clearly explained my position, and
I think I have less of an agenda than you might, kind of intend. Because when I say that I was looking at the site and I looked at the site and it might have gotten wrong, might have gotten right, those are literally just numbers.
I don't know if you have an agenda or
to...
not. I don't know if it's an agenda thing. I feel like the way that you end up engaging is frustrating and annoys me because I feel like it betrays or it demonstrates some position that I'm getting frustrated with. I don't necessarily know if you're like, I'm going to intentionally say these things because I have an agenda to frustrate him in this conversation.
You say that I don't believe it all the time.
Yeah, but I don't think that... I think that when I say you don't believe it, what I mean is that you would recognize in another conversation, it would be ridiculous to ask somebody, what do you think this politician should do? And then you tell them what you think they should do, and then you say, yeah, well, I don't think that would be very politically feasible. It's just not... It's like not...
Well, do you really not recognize the difference in what you're talking about with Mamdani making a statement?
Like, the context of that was you asking me, what kind of statement would Mamdani have to make, essentially, for me to feel more comfortable with Mamdani as a politician? and that he wouldn't like.
Well, because I genuinely wanted you to explore. Genuinely, again, maybe this is
and
my
I
fault.
did. I explored it. I said a statement on Ukraine would be good, and then you said, "Well, I don't know if it's very politically feasible." Why? That tells me that's scarier than anything else.
We don't have to be. Can we not be as okay? There has to be an opposition to each other's point for a second. Take on the idea that I think that's a little bit surprising of a thing for him to do. Take it on a little bit just for the sake of conversation. Can we find a different example? Because I genuinely, and I'm telling this to you, I would find it from a sequence of events perspective and where we are right now in the U.S. I would find him making a statement to the party about Ukraine odd, even amongst things he could say about Ukraine. So I guess I'm expressing to you genuinely, I don't think that example works for me.
Fine.
Is there another one where you and I could have a little bit more?
Because the lack of it working for you demonstrates my point. I don't even fully disagree with you. Yeah, it would be kind of weird. It wouldn't really be in line with where we're at right now politically. That's why I would want him to make a statement like this as a political leader. You know what else is really fucking weird? Talking about arresting Netanyahu. That's a really fucking weird statement to make, and it's super bizarre. But he's okay making that one, and you'll defend that by saying that, well, it was a campaign promise. Fine, that's a really fucking weird campaign promise to make.
Maybe, but I think, again, New York has a view they've expressed in terms of what they want their mayor to do.
Then I disagree with New York politics, and I don't want them to represent the rest of my country.
But that doesn't mean that... Sure, okay, but then we go back to this other question. Can we still find another example? Because I think the reason we're looking for that is I am trying to find, and maybe this is stuff that we can then use moving forward, other ways in which someone like Mamdani, who I think is legislating
make a strong positive statement that we should not be supporting Hezbollah and Hamas, and that he condemns people in his party that are supportive.
Does he not condemn Hamas?
That he's not supportive. Fuck condemning Hamas. That he's not supportive of people in his party that are supportive of Hezbollah or Hamas. There can be no moral confusion there.
Who in the party you're talking about?
Do I need to look up the DSA member statements on?
Yes.
Okay. Just as a thing, if I don't find it, I think there are statements in the media that are worth addressing. If I do find it, you're going to pivot immediately from that and say that we need another example. But I will find out.
I know I'm stressing you out or whatever. But you gotta believe a little bit more that people believe what they're saying. I mean, not everybody, but I have given you the same perspective in all of our conversations. My Israel-Palestine perspective has been consistent. My Ukraine-Russia perspective has been consistent. My perspective on the left has been consistent. I have repeated themes to you. Now, you might disagree with them, and that's okay. That doesn't mean they're not real. And I think one of the things that the reason I'm saying this out loud, not just to be like, hey, chill, is also because this is what I think of a lot of other people around their weaker beliefs. I think someone genuinely believes something about Israel-Palestine that might to you be wrong because of the assumptions baked into their calculus or what they believe about the history or whatever else it might be. But if you understand that they're coming to it...
On the DSA website, okay, I looked at chat. So the headline here, or the first sentence is, earlier this week, the Palestinian resistance announced that a ceasefire agreement has been reached. Do you think that this is a supportive way of referring to Hamas? Or do you think if I keep looking, I'm going to find...
I think this is a supportive way. I don't know. I genuinely... I don't know how... I'd have to interrogate that a little bit in my head.
Okay. All right.
What? Why?
It's
Why?
like you obviously know this is a fucking stupid statement. I don't know what to say. If I were to refer to ISIS as the Syrian resistance organization... If I were to refer to ISIS as the Syrian resistance group, would you assume that I'm supportive of ISIS or not?
Do you think ISIS and Hamas are the same thing?
If I were to refer to ISIS as the Syrian resistance group, would you assume that I'm supportive of ISIS or not? Or if I were to refer to the resistance group in Afghanistan that did the 9/11 attacks, would you assume I'm supportive of them or not?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So when I refer to Hamas as the Palestinian resistance...
So do you think Hamas and ISIS are similarly scaffolded analogies?
I don't think that. No, I don't think they're the same. It's two different things.
Right.
Well, what does that have to do with what I just said?
Because if Hamas is an organization that represents a ceasefire and represents a people inside of a conversation, would you say that labeling them as part of a resistance is also part of the polity at the time. It's different than ISIS. There's a terrorist organization that is disparate, right?
Calling something a resistance
things in different...
means that you're normatively supporting that thing.
In opposition to something else.
Yes. So it's a supportive
statement. Do you not think that's different than ISIS?
Sure, it can be, but I'm just saying that when you call it a resistance...
I think it genuinely is. I think it genuinely is a different scaffold, right? Like, when we talk about Palestine... And by the way, I've talked to you about this before.
When you're supportive of... So you're supportive of the attacks? Of all types of resistance? When you call Hamas the resistance, first of all, it's not even really... It's not even, like, descriptively correct. You could call them Hamas.
Terrorists.
You could call... Well, no. You could call... Well, some people would, but you can call them Hamas, or you can call them, like, the government of Gaza or whatever. But to call them the resistance, that implies a right side and a wrong side, and that one side is on the right side. And it comes off as kind of an endorsement when there was the largest terrorist attack in all of fucking Jew history. And
I hear you. I don't think what you're saying is unreasonable. I don't know
unreasonable. If I walked into your house and I fucked your dog, it's just like such a crazy way to phrase everything, bro. You phrase that. I don't know if you're aware of it or not. It's such a crazy, like, my reading is the only reasonable read on that. Do you acknowledge that or no? Nobody describes resistances as things that aren't justified. Resistance, by definition, implies some oppressive force that ought not to be encumbered by a person, ought not to be suffered. This is the resistance.
It's a loaded phrase after Star Wars, for sure.
It is.
After Star Wars, kill yourself, Putin! Sorry.
The thing that I've said to
people always say, like, oh, like, terrorism is a perspective. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. One man's terrorist group is another man's resistance group. Like, these are, like, common, like, it's when you call something a resistance.
But the thing I've said to you in the past, and I know you disagree with this, I think, like, the organization or the structure of Hamas is not what we would ascribe to it. And you and I have debated this in the past of, like, I think there was a time where we were talking about whether we should call it a government, because I think it has become so, and this is like a year, I don't know if it's a year ago, but, like, it's become so beaten and unstructured and doesn't have the same apparatus as a functioning government. And we can't consider, that it has the same ability to
that's fine.
manage.
DSA supports Hamas. Okay, that's all I'm saying. That was my original point. You agree?
Do you think that's true of DSA members, really?
I don't care if it's true of DSA members. If you don't say it, and you're part of the DSA, I would assume you do. Of course, you're a member to the thing.
So this is another thing that I believe, and again, I genuinely believe this. So you might be mad about it, but it is something I believe. The way we use all of these words, unfortunately, we have lost meaning in words. Let me tell you what I mean by that. And I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. When somebody who's a college student, and again, we've talked about this before, says "Free Palestine from the river to the sea," I don't think they're saying the same thing as somebody else. Necessarily saying it in a different tone and in a different context. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, different people can use the same phrase and mean different things.
Well, and so the point I'm making, when we talk about Israel and Palestine, Hamas and all this other stuff, like, I don't think people are necessarily pointing to what you think they're pointing to sometimes. And that doesn't mean that they...
If I had a gun to your head right now and we were to poll the average DSA member and figure out if they support Hamas or not, they think Hamas's resistance against Israel is righteous, do you think it would be over 50 or under 50%?
Can I ask one question before I answer yes or no?
No.
It helps me understand what I'm answering.
No, well, answer this first and then ask for clarifying, and then I can ask again.
Over 50% support Hamas.
And their resistance against Israel.
Wait, what are they asked? What's the...
Do you support Hamas in their resistance against Israel? Yes or no?
There, yes.
Okay.
And then I genuinely believe that the answer might change around things like, do you support Hamas? And it doesn't say anything after that. And then I genuinely believe that if they said, do you know what Hamas is? There'd be a different answer. Like, so, in other words, they're not endorsing October 7th. The challenge, and again, I think this is a real challenge. I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm not endorsing the people who have this problem. But as I've told you, I believe a lot of people are low information. They're reacting to the last person to identify a problem and prescribe a potential solution that might make them feel good. This is what I've told you in the past is a lot of reasons I believe people follow Hasan but don't ascribe to his politics. And again, if we look at DSA polling, I've sent you the links. They are more liberal, the polity, the voters are more liberal than the label would necessarily do. And the reason I believe that's true is because they just don't know. I don't think it's because they're answering in one way or they think very closely about party affiliation
Just
and
as
labels.
a quick, before you can finish yours if you want, but like all of this is the reason why I don't support and won't support Mamdani or any other aspect of the DSA. The lack of moral clarity on this issue is completely and totally unacceptable to me. So even if everything you're saying is true, it doesn't matter to me. It's too ripe for subversive aspects or elements to move in if the polity is so stupid and uneducated, and the leaders of the party, like Mamdani, especially when he's surrounded by highly sus individuals with their positions on October 7th and the 8th and all the statements around Hamas, I would never trust it, ever. And you would never trust anything like this that also had equal lack of clarity on issues that you consider to be very important. You absolutely would not. No sane human being would.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, but like I don't know that I would try to describe this trust so broadly. I think that's the difference between me is like you're going, okay, now I will not trust Mamdani who's doing a bunch of other things, and I think like he's so subversive, and I think they have
I wouldn't trust a Nazi doing a bunch of other things, right?
Yeah, but a Nazi's going to represent a whole bunch of like. By the way, what do you think
So
about the
with
fact
the
that
DSA.
Obama and Mamdani did that event together?
What about it?
Like, what does that make you think about Obama?
I don't know. I would disagree with Obama supporting DSA people.
So do you no longer support Obama?
Yes, and I don't support all black people. Also, by the way, hate them all now. By the way.
Okay, but that's a legitimate question.
No, it's not a legitimate question. It's a retarded fucking
lent
pivot.
his credibility.
I would say that he made a mistake here. Obama is not a DSA person. He's not DSA. If Obama's
So
like,
if
I'm
he
a
shows
DSA
up again, with a member of the DSA.
I'm not supporting Obama. He's not an elected official. I would say I don't support his public statements when he endorses the DSA, but he's not acting in the function of a DSA party member.
But you find it problematic.
Sure.
What do you think he's doing in that moment when he has that?
I think they view the Conservative
must be
Party,
not.
rightfully, as being a massive threat in the United States. And I think there's not very much political savvy, unfortunately, when it comes to the current political landscape that we're in that's dominated by so much subterfuge and weird duplicitous actors and weird subversive elements and everything else.
And we can come back to this. I hate when you say that I pivot. I'm not trying to leave this conversation, but it's an interesting question based on what you said. One of the other things that I really wonder about is like what it means to really fight the left. Like right now, it's a lot of pointing and yelling about them, if we're being honest.
It would be excluding them from events. It would be not supporting their candidates in primaries and campaigning against them.
But does that increase? What does that result in? Like, where
ideally, it results
in
in more awareness of that the DSA is bad for the Democratic Party, and it would cause a reduction in the member base of the DSA. Ideally.
But like right now, you say things that like if people looked them up, like they wouldn't find Brad Lander being against NATO. Like, do you think that's an effective way to draw people away from turning to the left?
Well, if I was interviewing Brad Lander, I'd ask him to get a solid statement on the record.
Sure, but like at a higher level, right? Excluding certain conversations, deciding to really paint with a broad brush as to who's in the tent or not the tent. Do you think that this is going to be the way in which your voice, insofar as you want it to be heard, will reach more people?
Yes.
How?
By having a strong position as a political party, and by making people aware of the things that you believe in.
Wait, but right now, right? Like a lot of people are being persuaded by the left.
Yeah, because I think there's not any good pushback against them. People are too complicit.
But we also have no good messaging on the
Exactly.
Dems.
Thank
this
you.
would help us get messaging.
Yes.
If we started
It's being
excluding
oppositional.
But what's the messaging?
The messaging is that we think that America is a force for good around the world. That we think that there are aspects of the American empire that are actually really good, that benefit the world.
Okay, that's a feeling, right? What's the
fucking
policy
God.
position in opposition to this?
NATO
This is a
good.
genuine question. I think one of the things I'm saying is one of the challenges of not having these conversations or deciding to paint with a broad brush is you don't go to someone who identifies as whatever we want to call soft leftist and say, okay, you might care about this issue. You might care about whatever issue. Here's the affirmative version. Here's the other stance. Here's the reason that thing isn't going to work, and here's the reason this other thing is going to work.
So the affirmative versions would be 1, NATO good. 2, Medicare for all is unreasonable to have in the United States right now. So we would want to move towards something like single payer is not the word. I guess universal health care, public option, yeah. Those are 2 off the top of the fucking dome. 3, they want free childcare. Okay, we want free childcare. We can't disagree with them on everything, but we have factors, because if you stand for everything, you stand for nothing at that point. And it feels like the Dems try to just have every fucking issue under their belt in the huge
maybe,
tent.
but that healthcare one is a good example. Do you think the DSA is currently polluting the healthcare conversation?
Yes.
Yes.
How?
They use it as a wedge
only
issue, and they don't
want
care
Medicare
about
for all.
expanding it. Yeah, they oppose
it.
public option stuff.
I might be actually missing this. Is this happening like in?
You go look it up. You can
What
go look it up.
conversation?
I'm not looking up every single conversation we've watched. We left this for you on this. What do you think Force the Vote was over? Like,
I got my wife setting up my Lego minifigurines in the Mos Eisley Cantina right now.
who the fuck asked?
That's pretty cool, honestly.
I was telling chat what you're doing.
Oh,
Are you gonna have the dudes, the 5 dudes,
The 5 dudes?
the band?
Yeah, they're there.
That's awesome. I'm struggling to find something where there's like an explicit. Are we pointing at something real, or is this a feeling? And if it's a feeling, it's fine. I guess, like, was there a clash that I'm not able to find?
Look at Mallory McMorrow talking to Matt Bernstein and Emma Vigeland when they're pushing her against her idea of a public option. Every time the public option stuff comes up, I don't know if I've ever seen a DSA person even speak favorably of a public option. They always seem to shit on it.
This is the thing that's titled the For Israel one.
Probably.
Probably.
I think I remember this. This is like the really tense interview. Yeah. Okay, hold on.
By tense interview, you mean ambush.
I think we should start all DSA and non-DSA Democrat. Any liberal should start getting ambushed all the time so they build a muscle. I'm tired of. I think what Mamdani can teach us more than anything is be able to answer any fucking question, and get ambushed all the time to build an actual muscle for.
What was the
you know,
last
respond.
adversarial platform Mamdani went on?
I don't know, but he's asked challenging questions all the time about Israel-Palestine, about his policy positions that are too leftist, and he always answers.
When was the last
excellently.
time? When was the last time he was asked challenging?
I don't know.
Okay, so it was a vibe,
What's
okay.
your?
He doesn't.
What,
He doesn't
do you
get
think I'm lying?
challenged.
Do you think I'm
No, he
wrong?
doesn't. No one is really challenging Mamdani. He's the leftist mayor of New York City. The far left aren't going to challenge him. And
Do
conservatives
you
don't
not
give
think
a
he
fuck.
gets asked about Israel-Palestine, about rent freezes, about city buses, about grocery stores? Do you really think he doesn't get asked?
Which one of those are challenging?
Not that much.
Hold on. What would be a challenging question instead of any of those?
I mean, show me a challenging interview. I'd be curious to see it.
Wait. Answer my question. If it's not about those topics,
It could be about those
what
topics.
does it
Let
look
me see
like?
the interview. I don't know. I haven't seen one. Maybe it doesn't. I just missed it.
I don't have it handy.
Okay.
A challenging question would be, would you support a public option if Medicare for all is untenable?
Why would the New York mayor be asked that?
Oh, sorry. So you were saying, what is a challenging question? I give you one, and now it's what about the New York mayor?
Lucas, don't turn into him. You can support him without turning into him.
Well, I'm
Come on now.
asking.
That was
Would you agree
unreasonable.
That's a
I mean-
challenging question?
It would be a challenging question. You're right. He'd be very confused as to why he'd been asked, and he'd probably answer very, actually, excellently about why it's weird for him to be asked that question. Oh, so are we using this podcast? I'm listening to the Medicare for All question as evidence of the clash.
No, we're using the whole history of like the leftist movement of the U.S. and their disdain for any kind of compromise on healthcare.
But are these people influential?
No, they're nobodies.
Is who
I would-
influential? Emma Vigeland?
I would never in a million years just respond to the DM I got. I would never in a million years abolish NATO. I'd expand it. By the way, well, okay, I'll just listen. Hold on.
Obama.
Wait, what was that for?
What?
What jingle was that?
O'Reilly.
Yeah. Wait, was that a Midwest thing or was that like a national
Yeah.
thing? Oh.
Well, I don't know if it was
O'Reilly's
national,
Auto
but I know that
Parts.
we-
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we had it in Ohio. Oh, national. Okay.
Fuck the I. No, just kidding. I love all races.
Really? You like racists?
I said races.
Yeah, Mrs. Questions here are absolutely stupid, but McMorrow answers excellently. I don't think this is
I know.
an unreasonable... I wish it was to every candidate.
I know.
So it was also asked of the Medicare for all, but I don't see this as like...
I know. We know. It's not representative
what?
of the
You
far
don't know
left.
what?
It's not an unreasonable question to ask.
No,
It's
hold on,
okay to
hold
get 'em
on.
the
It is an
record.
unreasonable...
It's fine.
It's a reasonable set of questions and an unreasonable stance to not like her answer. What do you think is happening after this? Like, are people fighting against what McMorrow is saying in Congress? What are we talking about?
DSA types don't support public option talk because they think that it's a bad compromise, and say they exclusively push Medicaid or Medicare for all, and they use this public option test as a way to audit or push out more moderate.
I guess I was
Dems.
asking for the test. Do you think this is the test?
It's
Like,
pa-
is this
yes,
is
part
this
of
as
it,
far
yes.
as the test goes? I don't think this is that problematic if the people are
I
answering
know.
the question that becomes, hold on, the question then becomes what happens afterwards. If you tell me that we are in a fight where they actually don't produce the votes for some sort of expansion of existing subsidies, let's say, then yes, that's a problem. But do you think this is a signal that they wouldn't?
No, I can't take anything they say seriously at all ever until they literally have to vote for it, I guess.
Wait, but that's why I'm saying Mamdani is a useful example, right? We can see where he campaigned and also
You
where he's been
literally
very
just said
pragmatic.
earlier that it would be inappropriate for Mamdani to even make a statement about Medicare for all, so I don't even know why the fuck you're bringing him up as an example now.
Well, he's a mayor. And
Then why are you using Mamdani as an example?
Hold on, because he's campaigned to the left, but then governed pragmatically.
Yeah, but he's supporting people that are more radical. So him governing more pragmatically actually just hurts me because now he's making the rest of the DSA people look more sane than they actually are.
Do you not think this happens to most politicians who get elected? Again, it's not always going to be true. But just like we accept people who are more centrist coming out of certain states, we accept people who are more liberal coming out of more liberal states. Like, this is not...
They're not more liberal. They're commies that are trying to subversively destroy my party, my political party, all across the country. They hate the Democratic Party.
And they say as much.
I think some of them do, and it's the politicians. I don't think the people do, right? Like, their voters don't. Their voters are normal liberal voters.
Yeah, but the whole
Some
point
of
of getting them in is eventually they start to change their opinions. And the only way for their opinions to
Yes.
not be changed is to see people like Mamdani push back on them. And he has never demonstrated his
Why
ability.
does it need to be Mamdani?
Okay, I don't know, man. Okay. I'm losing my voice. I can't do as much of the rage baiting. Like getting rage
guess-
baited. What do you think I'm going to say when you say why Mamdani?
Yeah, I'm sorting in my head. He's doing the proactive in the other direction, and I guess in my head I'm going.
Well, because he's like the de facto leader right now of the DSA.
Yeah, but
so
like
that's
I
why,
don't.
obviously.
I guess I go right, but like he is not a liberal or standard liberal, right? And so like I'm not surprised that that's happening. A, I don't think that means B that he therefore gets to win everything all the time, right? We always have a de facto leader, and the party shifts sometimes with the leader, sometimes not with the leader.
Now
right?
you're just
Like,
doing random
this-
description again that has literally no bearing on the conversation. I don't know how long you're going to do it for.
Okay,
but
so then I guess I'll put it to an end. The end here is he has to decide whether he has enough of his coalition at some
Now
point.
you're giving me more
to-
political reality and description, totally irrelevant to the conversation. Don't know why you're bothering to do
Sorry,
it.
why is it relevant? Why is it relevant?
You're just
Again,
describing the
maybe
political
there's a
winds around him, like he's a slave to what the polity wants, and you're just describing what the polity believes.
No, but he also
and I don't know
holds
why.
some of these opinions, right?
Okay.
So when you say he's a slave to what the polity wants, it's also some of these things are his beliefs.
Then why would you
Yes.
talk about the polity believes this, so he has to do it? Why not just speak to his beliefs? And then I disagree with those beliefs,
Because
and that's why I don't like
sometimes
him.
it's-
So
Right, because sometimes it is about the polity, you know? So if you were going to run for office, there would be a set of issues. And by the way, we know this even in, kind of like how Obama handled gay marriage, right? There's a set of things that you believe as a person, as an individual. There's a set of things that you think are reasonable to pass.
we
There's a set
know
of
we've
things that you
already
think-
done this loop 100 times. I'm going to poke you with the extreme example of the rape dems, and you're going to say the rape dems are too far, and then I'm going to say this is a policy thing that's too far. So I don't know why you're bringing up this loop
Here's an
again.
interesting question,
Yeah.
I think. What's a version of the DSA? And I guess let's exclude endorsements and messaging because that's like an easy answer. Is there like a
No.
version of that organization that you think is it like a structure thing? Is it a particular policy where you would feel less threatened in the long term? Because I'll put it this way: like those, I think the number of people in the DSA who want to demolish the Democratic Party, literally, or like
is a low number of people. We've already gone over this a million times. I agree, but the problem is that the head people in the party themselves don't seem to push back on the more subversive elements. So right now, the general DSA member might not be wanting to destroy the Democratic Party, but the DSA leadership and the people that are in charge of messaging do, and they're not getting any pushback from other large leaders like Mamdani. So I would expect more and more of the party to feel that way.
Do you think AOC does?
Probably not, but she's also not pushing back against the people that do sufficiently. So those people are going to become louder voices.
And currently, your view of why she wouldn't is because she thinks it's too costly.
Or because she doesn't see the rising threat or doesn't agree or doesn't think that she can push back against it or be politically effective in doing it because it would cost her seat or something. I'm not sure.
And do you think some of that is a combination of belief / like being disguised because of like personal relationships with people like Hasan? Or like why do you think she doesn't see it as a threat?
Well, I don't know how much she... maybe she does see it as a threat, but maybe she feels like she politically can't really respond and that her seat's going to get challenged and she'll get kicked out or something. So she doesn't think it's effective for her to speak out against it.
One of the interesting things is...
I would say it was a pretty strong statement for her to not endorse her ex-campaign manager or whatever in California, no?
Did we ever get her, like, actually saying something? I know she was asked and dodged the 2 times, but...
I mean, dodging is a pretty big deal. A lot of people were mad at her for it.
He's not more liberal than her, right? I think she's just...
More liberal?
The thing I took is a leftist. Like, he's
I think he's like a tanky loser. Like, that's probably why she didn't do it.
But in a similar policy...
As AOC?
I think they had similar policy position. Yeah.
I don't think so. I think that was when there was that leak of AOC making that comment that a lot of the DSA types people will show up at the end of an election and try to take credit for things, but they didn't really help much and they didn't help her at all. And she was a little salty about that.
I thought that was a statement about like her just not liking him, but fair enough. Like it felt like there was like personal animosity. Well, so then the question becomes, are those the right, are the AOCs and Mamdanis actually an interesting target themselves? For persuasion and like bringing inside a wider tent in some long time horizon. In other words, they're influential, obviously. They've seen the pragmatism for politics and chosen a certain direction. Like, I guess, do we... With Mamdani, it seems you believe on a long term he has more disruptive views. AOC, you're not sure. Is that why?
I don't think Mamdani has disruptive views. I don't think AOC has disruptive views. I don't like the fact that they don't push back against the disruptive views, and that's bad enough right now.
But how do we, or if we wanted to, let's say, not endorse them, not collaborate with them, whatever, I don't know what the literals are here, but let's say we wanted to embrace them a little bit more because we saw them as like an interesting throughway to the portions of that subgroup of the party.
You would say exactly what I'm saying. You would say, I don't think I can support you or
I don't know, but does that work? Literal question. Like, I think, like, I wonder about, like, okay, I don't support you and you're going too far and I need to see this or that. Like, I wonder what else could be true. And I'm not just talking about you. I'm talking generally for, like, liberals in both alt media and media. Like, what's the persuasive thing? Or is that persuasive? And if I might think it's not, is there something more persuasive to bring someone like that into a more standard liberal fold?
I don't know, and I don't really care. I'd rather focus on productive use of our time politically than the endlessly trying to...
But obviously it would be productive to have...
No, it wouldn't be. It would be so much better to rather than endlessly chase the most radical, retarded voices possible for a group of people that were part of the unaligned or the non-committed, whatever cuck weird shit that was. Why waste time? If you need somebody to convince you that a group of people who couldn't vote for Kamala Harris over Donald Trump like need to be persuaded, just don't waste your time. Go after moderate votes. I think is a way better use of time. Not only is it better to go after moderate votes, it's better to go after moderate votes and to excise people like your AOCs and Mamdani so that when conservatives try to like crucify you with their weird endorsement and acceptance of DSA types, you can say, no, those people are losers. We don't accept them in our party. It'd be way better.
I think you lose all the energy of the party.
Okay. Then create energy around people that aren't like endorsing dog shit policies. And stop wasting energy on people that just want to destroy the party.
You're going to say I'm being descriptive or something when I say like this seems to be an option. Like, who are we creating?
Okay, then you're right about everything. Descriptive.
I guess what do you happens next? Like if you play out 2026 from the perspective of, let's say, like where you see this currently going. Obviously this is like, I'm not talking
right now
about, like,
we have a radical, dangerous faction in our party that nobody seems to be able to push back against. They're having significant sway over the media environment, despite being a minority of the party and only existing in more radical sections of our party. They are constantly being used as an attack vector for other Democrats. The Plattner stuff and these New York DSA types, the Hasan outfit, all of this shit is probably now going to be dug up and hardcore utilized in the Tallarico race. That when you have all of these weirdo elements in your party that everybody's making infinite amounts of excuses for, and nobody can seem to find it within them to push back on any of them, people are going to view that with a little bit more legitimacy as being actually part of the Democratic Party now. And it's going to be harder to argue that they're not. And so we have a choice on whether or not we want to try to play a risky game courting these types of extremist elements like MAGA was with the Republican Party, which they've done, and now the Republican Party is going to be in disarray for at least one election cycle while they figure their shit out. Or we focus on building actual political power with actually politically intelligent people that share our policies instead of continually trying to gamble by making deals with people that want to kill our entire organization, but we're assuming that like we can survive the disease and win a few seats as a result of it in places that we don't even need to be stressing about, because when the fuck are we ever going to lose a seat in New York in any of these districts where these DSA types are winning?
So, what do you think is the first big fight around that? Because so now we've had I guess it'd be the representation of how this turns out in the elections. Like it'd be like pointing at the results of the elections as a way to begin excising. What's the first checkpoint?
Well, the first checkpoint we missed, it was probably Plattner.
Right.
And we fucked that up.
Oh, how would that have gone differently?
Is if that was a moderate Dem race, or if that was filled with people that had the political mind to support the Democratic Party, Plattner wouldn't have survived the Nazi tattoo scandal. He wouldn't have even been selected. That was a group of radical outsiders that were trying to draft a guy that they thought was radical enough to support their views, and then he ended up entering that race, and for whatever reason, the Dem that we ran sucked shit, and so he managed to win that race, but without the DSA type involvement there, the Plattner shit wouldn't have happened, and we'd either have a competitive primary, or we'd either have a competitive general, or we'd just lose a general, but at least we wouldn't have some weird Nazi rapist guy that we'd have to contend with. I don't know what that's going to look like.
The headlines. Well, and so the next checkpoint is elections then.
The what?
The next checkpoint is the midterms.
Well, I don't know. You could argue. It's hard. Obviously, it's a selfish perspective, but I would argue partially a checkpoint can be: do we let moderate Dem streamers, I guess, get kicked out of college Dem events, or do we let people wearing fucking Mao outfits show up at Democratic events and give weirdo
but
fucking Mao speeches? But that
doesn't have a moment, right? Like that's the challenge. Who gets to make that choice or like decide like there needs to be a presentation of this, right? Like the moderate streamer thing. Let's take that as an example. The next time that's going to come up is the next time somebody tries to go to something and gets banned.
Sure, I guess.
Or kicked out. That feels like not a checkpoint. This is one of the interesting things, right? Like a lot of things I suggest to you, obviously you don't like because they are more opening a conversation to people you don't want to open the conversation to. Then the question becomes, okay, where is this other conversation going to happen? Like, let's use an example. Is there a way to have the conversation about either who should be invited to college Dem events or a retrospective on Plattner, like other than on your stream and on Wix stream, like where else could that possibly happen?
In the media.
That's okay, yeah, but it won't happen.
Well,
this is one of the challenges. I know it's not your job.
It does happen on the left. They have these conversations. They're doing all what they can. They seem to be able to do it on the tanky spaces.
Right, but isn't that descriptive?
What do you mean?
Like I don't know what I agree with it that they seem to do it.
You're asking me where it will happen or where it should happen. I said where it should happen. It should happen in the media environment. Well, that's where it should happen. More media people should talk about it. That's why I'm messaging about it and I'm screaming about it and I'm saying I won't do college DSA events and I think that other liberals should talk and hopefully maybe that's why David Pakman spoke up. Like that's what I'm pushing.
If it's forcing Pakman and others to be more resistant, I like this is a real question that's meant to probe just and your thoughts, not necessarily because I mean it is a challenge. Is that small?
Is that small?
Is that too small?
If you want to, I think if you wanted to make the most progress in these conversations in your mind, you should just swap the subjects around, and I think you'll find a cornucopia of answers when you're considering something that you seem to be more politically favorable towards, even though you don't. So instead, in your mind, and before asking me a question, you should think, if I was a DSA member, what would I do to make my candidates more electable? I bet you have a billion answers that pop into your head. You'll pretend not to now, but you'll have a ton of different ways that they can reach out and do things. And that's what they've been doing. And I would say that that's what we should do. But when it comes to moderates or whatever, you're like, well, would that even matter with that, blah, 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 I don't know. But that's what I would suggest.
Hold on, again, why do you think I'm hiding thoughts about the DSA?
I don't know.
Do you think I'm Democratic Socialist? What's wrong with you? Something is foundationally wrong with you. But when
how do you think a DSA member how would a DSA member answer that question? If you were talking to a DSA member and you were like, what do you think you should do to get your candidates like more liked or your party or your thing more electable or whatever?
Am I talking to candidates or am I talking to media?
You're talking to a DSA person.
Well, I think it's different. And I think that what they've done a good job of is their candidates can be the messenger. I think that's the challenge with liberals, both from a media perspective historically and then candidates also historically, but differently, is you can't really use liberals as a messenger because they're not as exciting or haven't been traditionally as exciting.
Definitionally, Ossoff isn't exciting. Newsom wasn't exciting.
Well, Ossoff is exciting as a person, but by the way, I've like heard him talk a lot, but I don't know his specific policy positions because I think liberal positions are more measured, right? So like the challenge is, when you talk about healthcare, obviously their policy positions are easier to just have the candidate go say what they believe because their version doesn't need explanation, right? And so they have a far easier answer with their candidates. I don't think their media is actually their alt media is only successful insofar as people are in pain, right? Like people are going to media that is describing their pain accurately. The candidates are exciting because they can actually say the most extreme or let's call it irresponsible or expensive version of a solution. You don't have an equivalent for a liberal cannot get people as excited about a measured version of what a person thinks is possible. Like the unfortunate truth is people think in extremes, right? So if someone has problems with healthcare, they're going to find it odd to hear an over-explained version of a step change rather than a big change in healthcare. No?
I don't know. I mean, Biden won his election with more votes than in all of U.S. election history, no? Was it because he was super exciting?
I think at the time it was actually very, very exciting. Somewhat as the circumstance.
Okay.
Okay. You okay?
Yep. What you've done is you've made me tired.
Yeah. Enjoy chatting.
Yeah.
Lucas, it's good to hear your voice. Chat. I love you. Steven, anything else?
No, I think I'm good.
Good to talk to you, buddy. Bye.
Be careful. Bye. I don't actually need purple science to launch a rocket, right? I just need to build all this shit and then send it off into space.
Who won?
Yo, mama.